Chapter 536, Severing Heaven, Dantan. 4. Woo-woo. I briefly close my eyes as I observe the entering nirvanas who are summoning the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords through the star vein formation. Can I do it? Logically, there's no way I can face the 7 true immortals known as the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords with my strength alone. From what Yangsung said, they seem to be quite high-ranking even among true immortals. If such beings descend as projections, they would already possess the might of true immortals. On top of that, I am now in the entering nirvana stage. That means I am currently the most vulnerable existence to true immortals in this world. Why are those in the entering nirvana stage the most vulnerable to true immortals? It is related to the true immortal advancement method. True immortals are also divided into realms and stages. TL, stages as in early, mid, late, etc. According to YOY, the first realm one steps into after becoming a true immortal is called Vestige Liberation Immortal, Feng. The meaning of the name itself reveals how one advances to that realm. Vestige Liberation, Shrije. It refers to beings who shed their physical bodies and ascend entirely into the world above the planes of Qi, Soul, and Fate. In short, the true immortal advancement ritual is liberation from the physical body. That is, one must abandon all their lifespan, physical body, and everything one has pursued in the mortal world up until now to reach true immortality. Simply put, we call this suicide, Jusha. Death. Such a simple yet terrifying ritual is the only way to advance to become a true immortal. Why do the Nether Ghost realm entering nirvanas not challenge the true immortal advancement ritual, but instead spend countless days staring at the corpse of reincarnation, Judge Yusu Ryan, who holds the secret of resurrection? New Beta. Why did the remnant of the Golden Divine tell me we all eventually have to go to the Netherworld? It is because the true immortal advancement ritual is, at its core, suicide. This is precisely why it is nearly impossible for those in the entering nirvana stage to resist true immortals and why they must clump together to stand a chance against them. True immortals, who have completed vestige liberation and obtained their immortal rank, already embody both life and death within themselves. Furthermore, once cultivators reach a certain stage, they can gain knowledge simply by directly facing the other person. Thus, when entering nirvana, true persons behold a true immortal, they behold death itself. And true persons who behold death are said to immediately undergo the true immortal advancement ritual on the spot. In short, entering nirvanas die just by directly facing a true immortal. If they are lucky, they might survive and become a true immortal. But in the situation of suddenly facing a true immortal and suddenly performing the advancement ritual, who knows how high the success rate is? For an entering nirvana cultivator who is not mentally prepared, directly facing a true immortal is unimaginably dangerous. In fact, the difference in rank between entering nirvana true persons and vestige liberation immortals is said to be almost negligible. However, the life and death that vestige liberation immortals hold within them boasts an absolute counter against entering nirvana true persons. This is why it is said that true persons must group together to face a vestige liberation immortal. When true persons gather together, they can, in their own way, use fate prophecies to strike at a vestige liberation immortal without directly facing them. But, honestly speaking, where in this heavenly domain would I find someone willing to join forces with me to fight 7 true immortal rank beings? Just facing one vestige liberation immortal alone requires at least 50 entering nirvana true persons. However, the ones descending soon are beings of an even higher rank than vestige liberation immortals, and it is unfathomable how deep their experience as true immortals runs. Each one of them is likely stronger than an ordinary true immortal. Furthermore, Yangsung said that if their projections fully coverage, they could even capture Blood-een. Blood-een serves as the benchmark. Yangsung said that originally, 49 true persons are needed to draw the star vein formation to divine descent the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords. But since YOY is missing, making the count 48, the divine descent will not be perfect. Therefore, the projection of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords summoned this time will not be able to defeat Blood-een. Yangsung himself doesn't seem to have any intention of directly helping me, and considering his words, it seems he's subtly suggesting that I go seek out Blood-een and beg for help. But that's far too dangerous. Having subdued Co Huil to near perfection, the greatest threats right now are the soon-to-be summoned Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords and Blood-een. Especially since Blood-een sees me as a follower of light, I have no idea what he might do to me if I fall into his hands. Thus, going to Blood-een isn't the worst option, but it's still the next worst choice. But given the current situation, the next worst choice is the only option left. If that's the case, I need to turn that next worst choice into at least the second best choice. I must become stronger. I contemplate as I gaze at the all-heavens sword. I have reached the pinnacle of void shattering. Now, all that remains is to reach the next realm. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have had the slightest clue to reach that next realm if I hadn't met Jangik. However, through Jangik's final strike, I obtained a clue to the next realm. I will show you. This is the fighting spirit to cut down the end. Keying. Jangik's green light fills cedarwood painting. I, observing Jangik's green intent, silently imbue the all-heavens sword into the colorless glass sword. The colorless glass sword melts into the all-heavens sword, transforming into something akin to a pure white line. Then, I draw out the single technique I've been perfecting all this time. Severing Mountain Swordsmanship. Final decisive move. As the 36th technique, this is the last move that stabilizes the flow of Severing Mountain Swordsmanship. Keying. Pure white light begins to gather into the all-heavens sword. Seeing this, Jangik chuckles softly. Such brute force. What do you intend to cut with that? I can't help but cough embarrassingly at his words. As Jangik said, brute strength is indeed being condensed, but there is a lack of sharpness. At this rate, it is nothing more than a club, not a sword. This technique is not yet complete. For it to be perfected, it might take tens of thousands of years, perhaps hundreds of millions of years. The conception of the technique itself has been finalized. However, the time required to train the technique I envisioned is so long that it's impossible to predict when it will finally be completed. Jangik clicks his tongue and says, "Hurry up and get rid of it. If that's the case, just confront me with your authority instead." It's quite a disrespectful thing to say to a fellow heart tribe, but I accept his words. To attempt to withstand Jangik's lifetime-honed single strike with an incomplete technique would instead be me who is being rude. I adjust my stance, preparing the linkage between the 33rd Sumeru and the 34th Kunlun. Now that's better. A much more impressive momentum. Yes, even if it's master, you'll have to be on guard for this one. I'm not simply talking about the power of Sumeru Kunlun. So it appears. Regardless, now that you've conceptualized the final decisive move of your martial arts, the flow of your martial arts, Wu, itself has stabilized. He's right. I've conceptually completed all 36 moves of Severing Mountain Swordsmanship, and over time, I have stabilized them with the goal of linking all 36 techniques seamlessly from start to finish. Severing Mountain Swordsmanship serves as a stable foundation for unleashing the 36th and final decisive move, reorganizing previously somewhat disjointed and lacking techniques into a cohesive and unified whole. Thus, the move of Sumeru Kunlun I am unleashing now is not the same as before. This ultimate beyond the end thrust, which once pierced through Blood Yin's hand and temporarily sealed Yeo Wai's cultivation, can now be performed up to 3 consecutive times. If it hits, it's a technique capable of helping an entering nirvana undergo the true immortal advancement ritual in a single go. However, even though I have prepared such a Sumeru Kunlun, I feel I cannot possibly muster the courage to face Jangik. Jangik looks at me and grins. For reference, if your technique gets shattered, block it, even if you have to use your authority. Pardon, as I said, I reached this decisive technique to cut down the end. And right now, you are the one causing the end. Therefore, I will cut down the end from you. But, when your master tells you to do something, just do it. Sururong. The green light overflowing around Jang, it begins to grow denser. If not, just die here. An ominous green light spills from Jangik's 2 eyes. I remain silent for a moment before nodding. We each assume our stances to collide with our most confident decisive techniques. I wanted to face him with the 36th move, but it would take too long to train to the point where I could face Jangik. It can't be helped. King. The green intent erupting from Jangik's body flares brightly. The colors of intent are diverse. For example, joy is gold. Anger is red. Sorrow is dark blue. Pleasure is purple, though for some, it is said to be silver. Love is light pink. Hatred is dark red. Desire is colorless. These are the 7 fundamental colors of intent. Numerous intents branch from these basic colors, mixing, splitting, darkening, or lightening to form unique hues. Then, what does green intent symbolize? Green intent has the meaning of consolation, Wei-an, and soul pacification, Zheng-an. From Jangik's intent flows the story of his life. It is the life of him who was once of a slave race. He was born 45,000 years ago during the chaos of the bright cold realm. In the midst of endless turmoil, Jangik discovered he has a talent for wielding the padao. As a member of a slave race, he was dragged around by his master as a clown performing with the padao. But one day, his master got caught up in the war of the bright cold realm and died. Jangik, in an attempt to protect the youngest member of the performance troupe and his fellow kin from one of the heaven tribe who sought to hunt them, picked up his padao. From that day forward, Jangik's talent began to shine. He slaughtered countless cultivators with his padao. Chi refining stage, chi building stage, core formation stage, Nascent soul stage. Numerous cultivators fell under Zhang Yik's Padao like autumn leaves swept by the wind. However, Zhang Yik always felt a sense of inadequacy. Have they died again today? His kin, his friends from the slave races. They were all slaughtered with ease, their stamina depleted quickly. They grew exhausted and died, or were eaten and killed. I will remember you all. Thus, Zhang Yik remembers them. Though he cannot recall everything through a brute force method like the canvas of myriad forms and connections, he honors them through his fighting spirit. The brief moments in their lives that carried value. He manifests the intent of those moments with his fighting spirit. Zhang Yik's Padao technique becomes increasingly refined and beautiful. Because Zhang Yik's dance is a dance created to honor the lives and hearts of the deceased, Zhang Yik always honors and remembers those who have died. In this way, Zhang Yik establishes his fighting spirit through comforting, honoring, and soul pacification. To honor the painful past of his kin. To ensure such tragedies never happen again, he pursues ultimate destruction within his requiem. Soul pacification is a vow. When facing those who have died in suffering, it is a promise to remain vigilant, so such suffering will never happen again. That is soul pacification. Zhang Yik seeks the meaning of that soul pacification through destruction. I tremble as I stare at the green light that contains Zhang Yik's entire life. Do. This can't be blocked with my martial arts alone. Perhaps if I use accumulating dust forms a mountain, it might be possible. But accumulating dust forms a mountain relies on the power of the canvas of myriad forms and connections, and I cannot use that in this situation. That leaves only one option. To use my authority, just as Zhang Yik instructed. Zhang Yik raises his Padao and swings it down. A simple, straightforward, yet overwhelmingly powerful technique. Downward strike. I have no confidence to block that technique. So, I will block it. Pong. Through the Sumeru sword dance, I borrow the power of the world, and with Kunlun, I thrust forward. The first thrust is merely a probing attack. Kunlun clashes against Zhang Yik's massive Padao and rebounds. But since I can now thrust up to 3 consecutive times, I have 2 thrusts remaining. So I imbue the second thrust with my authority. Immortal Art Various Omens, Immortal Art Examination of Doubts, Immortal Art 5 Epics, 3 Spirits, and 8 Paths. I pour every immortal art I can currently use to reinforce this thrust. Zhang Yik's Padao collides with my single strike combined with immortal arts, slowing its descent and chipping away at its edge. But the Padao still continues its descent towards me. I even realize that Zhang Yik's Padao is now emanating an even more overwhelming force. Intent, I see. I uncover the secret behind Zhang Yik's immense power. I prepare my final thrust. This is the third thrust. If I falter here, I will suffer a fatal wound from Zhang Yik. That cannot happen in this situation. In that case, I must add the most destructive spell I have to this thrust. Why? At the tip of my thrust, the jade of yin-yang and 5 elements rises. It's been a while since I've used this. Immediately, my final thrust collides with Zhang Yik's Padao. Flash. The world fills with green light. Splitting Emperor. Qua. My thrust, combined with the Great Mountain Splitting Emperor technique, seems to pierce through Zhang Yik's slash, shatters his Padao, and then pulverizes his body into a bloody mess. Shukong. My body is also split in 2 in an instant, but I borrow the power of cedarwood painting to restore myself. Shiyi. Master. I look at Zhang Yik with sorrowful eyes. I saw it. Through Zhang Yik's strike, I glimpsed the starting point of the next realm he has attained. Isn't it sad? Zhang Yik speaks as his entire body, turned into pulp, approaches death. First, let me treat you. You are dying. Don't. As you've seen, I am reaching the ultimate pinnacle of my fighting spirit. He sincerely warns me not to heal him, his gaze filled with murderous intent. Master, do not grieve. Among the Heart tribe who have died by your hand, was there anyone who regret being killed by you? There is none. I feel the same. There is no regret. Shiyi. From Zhang Yik's body, pure white souls begin to drift out. Their number gradually increases, and Zhang Yik's body begins to wither. But those are not real souls. Then what are they? Yes, they are artificial souls, similar to those of the Mad Lord. But unlike the Mad Lords, these artificial souls were created not through circuits, but through Zhang Yik's own fighting spirit. The reason Zhang Yik could unleash an even stronger, explosive power than before, it is because he remembers the intent of those he once fought alongside in life, making them into artificial souls and preserving them in his body. From those artificial souls, he drew upon the intent they had during life. And because he endlessly dances a requiem to honor for his comrades, the artificial souls accepted Zhang Yik's heart and lent him their strength. It is a technique called heart field, Xintan. Zhang Yik slowly explains about the artificial souls. It's something I created a long time ago, but I never really used it. However, I needed it to face you, so I brought it out today. It's extraordinary. Huh. It can't help but be extraordinary. It's a method where, not just the Dantian, but an independent energy-generating organ is created in the plane of soul, and after embedding the intent of my former comrades into that organ, I drew upon their strength with a heart that honors them. Your canvas of myriad forms and connections can likely do something similar, perhaps even more efficiently than mine. You saw it too, didn't you? The starting point of the next realm that I discovered. Yes, I did. My face twists with bitterness. Zhang Yik's single move undoubtedly contained the next realm. I had enough confidence to reach the next realm, but I deliberately chose not to. The heaven and earth tribes that slaughtered, devoured, and enslaved my kin. I didn't want to understand their heart and worldview. That's why I only showed you the heart field just now, as a demonstration. As Zhang Yik approaches death, he slowly closes his eyes. But if it's you, you will surely be able to reach it. The same goes for Kim Young-hoon, that kid. Promise me one thing. Please, tell me. You, one day, when you reach the ultimate of fighting spirit. In your terms, martial pinnacle. If that time comes, when your strength has grown, strong enough, please create a world where the strong cannot so easily oppress the weak. With those words, Zhang Yik closes his eyes. To use that technique, he had to cut away his pride and cut away his own life force, utilizing the reckless and demanding heart field. All for the sake of showing me that technique. I kneel before Zhang Yik and bow 10 times. I may hold the status of sacred master, and Zhang Yik may have been an intruder, but none of that matters. Because until the end, he was my master. Tot. The entering nirvana true persons are constructing a star vein formation right before my eyes. It looks as though the star vein formation will be completed shortly. No, in truth, it seems that simply entering the activation command would cause the star vein formation to function, allowing the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords to descend. I already understand that there is no point in interfering. Even if I destroy this star vein formation, the attraction force between the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords and the Sun and Moon heavenly domain has already been established. Therefore, instead of recklessly charging in to destroy the formation and the 48 true persons, I calmly raise the all-heavens sword. The next realm Zhang Yik revealed to me. The enlightenment of the third step before the throne. This is it. Ying. The all-heavens sword gradually begins to shine brightly, dancing within the plane of soul. The condition to rise to the entering nirvana stage ultimately lies in controlling a plane. Whether it's the plane of fate or the plane of chi, it's the same. If so, the third step before the throne, capable of opposing the entering nirvana stage. Does this next realm require controlling the plane of soul? That is incorrect. The plane of soul is not a dimension, as is commonly thought. It is a far different concept. In fact, the flowers of the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable's Eastern Heaven flower field align more closely with the concept of the plane of soul. The heart essence assigned to each individual. That is the plane of soul. In other words, the plane of soul is not a single vast world like the planes of chi or fate. Instead, every living being's heart in this world is individually referred to as a plane of soul. Thus, the heart tribe is entirely opposite to the heaven and earth tribes. The heart tribe completely controls the plane of soul assigned to them from the very beginning. Something the heaven and earth tribes need to enter the entering nirvana stage to accomplish, the heart tribe achieves as their very first step as a heart tribe. From there, the differentiation in realms simply depends on how one draws power from the plane of soul they control and how one influences other planes of soul beyond their own. The pinnacle of controlling and wielding a single plane of soul is void shattering, or, as it is also called, the second step before the throne, or mandala. What Zhang Yik showed is, quite literally, the ultimate will he can demonstrate through his life and his heart essence. At the same time, Zhang Yik created other artificial souls within his body to significantly increase his output. Artificial souls are remarkably similar to the heart tribe's techniques, to the extent that they could even be classified as one, much like the Mad Lord's wonderfully mysterious innate heart canon. However, that is merely classification. The artificial souls Zhang Yik showed are clearly more akin to the consciousness methods of the heaven and earth tribes. As the realms of cultivators of the heaven and earth tribes who train in the planes of chi and fate become higher, the more they can interfere with other planes to a certain extent. At the nascent soul stage, they can perceive other planes, and by the sacred vessel stage, as a sacred master, they can even extend their hand into planes other than their own. Now, at the entering nirvana stage, it feels as though even a heaven tribe cultivator who cultivates in the plane of fate can utilize the powers of the plane of chi at the star-shattering level. That's right. As cultivators of the heaven and earth tribes continue their immortal cultivation, they gain the ability to interfere with other planes. Then what about the heart tribe? The heart tribe does not attempt to understand any plane. Even a glance at how the manifestations of the heart tribe are all distinctly named reveals that they are a people with an incredibly strong sense of self in how they live. And Zhang Yik's enlightenment taught me this. Well, look who it is. Is this not the madman who twisted providence and shook the sun and moon heavenly domain? The entering nirvana true persons begin mocking me. Perhaps they are speaking with such confidence because they believe in the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords they are about to summon. What brings you here? Are you perhaps here to serve us? Whether in a male or female form, serving one's seniors in any form is indeed a noble act. Ha ha ha. Go ahead and undergo transformation. Or have you come here to settle old grudges with us? Why don't you go wild? You seem quite confident after delaying the end of the sun and moon heavenly domain. We will show you the heaven beyond heavens. I do not respond to their words, silently continuing to compress the all-heavens sword. The colorless glass sword imbued with the all-heavens sword as well continues to compress thinner and thinner along with it. Zhang Yik's enlightenment is ultimately this. To reach the third step before the throne, in other words, the realm corresponding to the entering nirvana stage, it is necessary to understand other planes. In regards to the planes of Qi and Fate, it is crucial to control their chosen plane because one begins understanding other planes from the beginning. But on the other hand, for the plane of soul, because one controls their own plane first, it becomes difficult to reach the ultimate realm without understanding other planes. Heaven, earth, and heart eventually become similar as they approach the pinnacle. Wu-wong. It thins. My all-heavens sword thins further and further, becoming a sword capable of cutting through anything in the world. Hey, didn't I ask you as a senior? Are you preparing to use the phenomena extinguishing mantra? Why don't you try using it again? The true persons begin to direct killing intent at me. If I continue to remain silent, they seem ready to attack. But I have no interest in such things. Come to think of it, I was curious. If immortal arts change the world with the heart, just how does it differ from martial arts unfolded with the heart or the techniques of the heart tribe? Perhaps, immortal arts and martial arts, share the same origin. No, rather, they might need to complement each other to be completed. Because, the three great ultimates itself is a circle completed by the union of three extremes. Keying, do you truly dare to mock us this much? If you do not immediately kneel and beg while returning our junior sister Yoi. And finally, the all-heavens sword, compressed to the point of a single line, completely loses its balance and dissolves into the void. Heck on. The colorless glass sword, which had been thinning alongside the all-heavens sword, snaps in the void. I look at this and let out a sigh of admiration. I see. The true persons glare at me and shout in rage. You truly dare to ignore us. I can feel countless immortal arts activating. The malice of the true persons begins to target me, but I pay no attention to them and swing the void held in my hand. In my hand, there is neither the all-heavens sword nor the colorless glass sword. However, in the next moment, the true persons scream in unison and the immortal arts they were preparing simultaneously come to a halt. I firmly face the true persons and smile softly. At last, I have attained it. The heart sword. Martial arts cannot be completed in isolation. Perfect martial arts cannot exist. Just as a person's dream is not completed by the dream alone, but by countless other events and dreams along the way. The ultimate of martial arts is the same. Yes, third step before the throne. The condition to reach that place is through land and will dual cultivation, or heart and heaven dual cultivation. And Zhang Yik, unwilling to learn the techniques of the heaven and earth tribes that had oppressed him, had only hinted at it to me through a shallow consciousness method that he had learned solely for mourning purposes. Zhang Yik must have realized this only recently. He must have reached the pinnacle of the second step before the throne, sought all kinds of methods, learned the earth tribe method, and only then realized that he must understand the hearts of the earth tribe to reach the third step before the throne. And then, he must have realized deep in his heart that it was impossible for him to forgive the heaven and earth tribes and set the nonsensical goal of challenging the end. Even so, I will carry on your will. I do not hate the heaven and earth tribes, but I can at least shoulder the will to protect the weak that Zhang Yik carried on his shoulders. That must have been why Zhang Yik entrusted me with such a request in his final moments. Why? I recall the name of my new realm. For the owner of Void, it is Adumbra. For the golden monster, it is Dragonflower. They both named their realms of martial arts with the meaning of life. Only now do I understand. Martial arts alone can never attain life. A sword by itself holds no meaning, just as it needs something to cut and someone to wield it. Just as a flower needs bees, soil, the light of the sky, rain clouds, and wind to bloom. Life in this world cannot exist in isolation. That is why those who named this realm combined heaven, earth, and heart, giving it names of living flowers and trees to naturally imbue the meaning of life. However, I decide to give this realm a slightly different name. The true persons see me lost in thought, urgently notice my skills, and begin summoning the Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords, while I watch their summoning unfold. I watch their summoning ritual unfold. Scenes from my past flash before my eyes. Third rate, second rate, first rate, peak. This was the result of my struggle to escape the despair of my lack of martial talent and my martial incompetence. 3 flowers gather at the summit. 5 energies converge to the origin. Ultimate pinnacle. This was the result of my struggle to break free from the oppression of cultivators who saw me and ordinary humans as nothing more than pills. Entering heavens beyond the path. Treading heavens beyond the path. Shattering heavens beyond the path. This was the result of my struggle to escape not from cultivators, but from fate itself, and of my own inherent lack of talent from birth. Seated detachment, entering hope. Void shattering. This was the result of my struggle not just to escape from fate, but to confront and accept it. It has been long. For a long and longer time, I have fought against fate, against those who oppressed me, and against myself. I gaze into the cosmic space before me, the vast emptiness, and the sky. Perhaps I have wanted to cut down this sky, to cut apart this world itself and become free. That is why I think of a name that symbolizes freedom. The first thing that comes to my mind is a passage from a literary work back on Earth. A bird breaks out of its egg. To the bird, the egg is the world. Those who wish to be born, they must all break the sky they have lived under. As I envision a life breaking free from the egg that is myself, I finally speak the name of the final realm. Severing heaven, Dantan. The all-heavens sword melts entirely into the void, blending with my cultivation. Cultivation, immortal art, attraction force, explosion. They all become one within this heart. At the same time, the completed 3 great ultimates finally rise again behind my head. This is the 3 great ultimates unleashed after reaching the entering nirvana stage. Simultaneously, only now do I realize that the immortal art of crystal glass to treading sea has at last been completed. From the beginning, it was never a heaven and earth dual cultivation method, but a method of the 3 great ultimates, and completing it required raising all 3 to the same realm. As I gaze at the crystal glass to treading sea fully melted into the void, I call the name of my immortal art. My immortal art, and the new name of the all-heavens sword. It is something that has already been passed down long ago. Like combing all intents turns them colorless. As I look at the pure white heaven and earth spiritual energy rising around me like salt, I look up at the 7 summoned giant gods before me. Embrace all connections and become impermanence. Crystal glass to treading sea, Boli Dog Haichum. Ultimate intent, G. Immortal art, Shansu. Impermanence sword, Wu Changjian. Having attained the 3 great ultimates and obtained my own immortal art, I face the projections of the 7 deities without retreating with a smile. Translator notes. The literary work is referencing the novel Damien, written by Hermann Hesse. Chapter 537, Goodbye, Daoist CO. Ha. CO wheel, CO wheel, CO wheel. Get a hold of yourself. Oh Hi SEO pants heavily as she glances back at the ominous something chasing from behind. Kugagagugu. A moon. A mass of gang chi the size of a small moon is pursuing her, and CO wheel. It is CO Unhyun's gang sphere clone. Just from the aura it radiates, it feels equivalent to the quasi-star shattering level. If it were to borrow CO Unhyun's power, it could easily reach the mid to late stage. Oh Hi SEO grits her teeth and drags CO Wheel along as she flees. However, the distance between CO Unhyun's gang sphere clone and Oh Hi SEO continues to shrink. I can't shake it off. Oh Hi SEO's pale complexion shows as she bites her lip tightly. But she cannot allow them to be caught. So she thinks of another plan. Wawoom. Pabababat. The light of the glass peacock seems to radiate from her body endlessly. Then, Oh Hi SEO splits into dozens of figures, scattering in all directions across the sun and moon heavenly domain. Whether fortunate or not, as she predicted, the moon-sized gang sphere fragments into dozens of smaller pieces, each chasing after her afterimages. The once moon-sized gang sphere has suddenly shrunk to the size of China as it continues to pursue her. Good, its speed has slowed. Oh Hi SEO exhales in relief and starts moving even faster. With her increased speed, the gang sphere clone gradually falls behind. Eventually, Oh Hi SEO successfully shakes off the gang sphere clone and manages to return to Lofty Dragonstar with CO Wheel where her main body is. Underground of Lofty Dragonstar. There, as she waits for CO Wheel, her face brightens upon seeing CO Wheel and her clone return. CO Wheel. You're back. The plan, how did it go? Oh Hi SEO cautiously asks CO Wheel. The Taiji ripples flickering around CO Wheel have also shrunk in size, and he gazes at Oh Hi SEO with increasingly vacant eyes. Seo Huiol stares blankly at the woman babbling in front of him. It feels as if he cannot understand a single word she is saying. No, it's noise he doesn't need to hear, because it's meaningless. Seo Huiol remembers what he just witnessed, though he did not completely witness it. He once again succeeded in glimpsing the Akashic records, and he saw it. The answer he had been seeking. Seo Huiol. Slap, slap. Oh Hi Seo lightly smacks Seo Huiol's cheek with her palm, and Seo Huiol stares at her with vacant eyes. Seo Huiol, are you okay? Is he okay? That's the meaning of her words. And Seo Huiol smiles as he replies. I'm fine, Hi Seo. Please, don't worry about me. But Oh Hi Seo continues to look at Seo Huiol with uncomfortable eyes. Oh Hi Seo is someone who grew up constantly reading others from a young age. For her, observing Seo Huiol, who has regained his emotions but lost all his strength, is not difficult. You're not okay? Hi Seo. What are you saying? Seo Huiol clutches his chest tightly as he speaks. I am fine. I'm fine, so don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. You don't need to know. Flinch. At Seo Huiol's sudden outburst, Oh Hi Seo flinches momentarily, but that's all. She continues to stare at him with a confused expression. Seeing this, Seo Huiol clears his throat and smiles again. I apologize for getting emotional. Just, please give me a little time to think. For now, the plan has failed. We need another strategy. A new plan to escape from Seo Eunhyun's grasp. At Seo Huiol's words, Oh Hi Seo nods. Got it. But, Seo Eunhyun's clone? There was a massive sphere that seemed like one chasing after us. Seo Huiol flinches slightly at her words. We'll likely be pursued again soon. If it's Seo Eunhyun's clone, it will soon find Lofty Dragon Star. What? This place isn't safe? It is safe. There's an escape route here that leads directly to a distant dimension. In the core of Lofty Dragon Star, there's a dimensional teleportation formation that connects to the true Devil Realm. Even if Seo Eunhyun's clone follows us, as long as we activate the teleportation formation and destroy the formation on the opposite side in the true Devil Realm, it will be impossible for even Seo Eunhyun to follow. I see. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Oh Hi Seo buries herself in Seo Huiol's embrace, trying to steady her breathing. Seo Huiol looks down at Oh Hi Seo, and while her gaze isn't on him, the smile fades from his face, leaving behind an empty expression. What have I been pursuing? He recalls the answer shown to him by the Akashic records. Cool. Just then, the entire Lofty Dragon Star begins to shake violently. Seo Eunhyun's gang sphere clone has arrived at Lofty Dragon Star. Oh Hi Seo quickly wraps herself and Seo Huiol in the light of the glass peacock, erasing their presences, before digging deeper underground. Seo Huiol, despite still maintaining cultivation around the 4-axis stage, knows he can't help her in his current state, so he silently follows her underground. Meanwhile, on the surface of Lofty Dragon Star, Seo Eunhyun's gang sphere clone lands softly, surveying the charred remains of the palace on the surface of the ground. As it slowly walks towards the ruins, it transforms into a human form. Seo Eunhyun clears away the palace ruins. Traces of familiar spiritual energy remain, and, beneath the palace debris, there, lying charred and fused together, are the ash clumps of Han Won and Yun Wei. Seo Eunhyun looks at them and, with a deep sigh, kneels on the ground to mourn his fallen friends. Oh Hi Seo's presence on this star is already confirmed. Since it is clear that escape is impossible anyway, it is only right to pay respects here and then go after them. Meanwhile, deep underground, as Seo Huiol and Oh Hi Seo approach the core, Seo Huiol predicts Seo Eunhyun's actions. By now, he must be mourning over Han Won and Yun Wei's corpses on the surface. He probably thinks he can capture us anytime, which means we have enough time to activate the teleportation formation. Dozens of schemes arise in Seo Huiol's mind. However, suddenly, Seo Huiol sees himself no longer wanting to think of such schemes. He understands what kind of situation this is. So that's it. I can no longer find a reason to live. He recalls the answer. Seo Huiol gazed at the Akashic records and wished. He wished to know who his origin is, where it lies, and with what intentions he was born. The Akashic records, though it couldn't fully answer due to him being pulled away by Hong Fan, still revealed what Seo Huiol needed to know. The truth is horrifyingly hollow and agonizing for Seo Huiol. Seo Huiol's origin does not exist in this world. The Akashic records judged on the soul, basing it on who gave him their heart. But in this world, there is no such existence who gave Seo Huiol their heart. Therefore, Seo Huiol, who was loved only by virtual personas in Agate's dream from the very beginning, has no meaning behind his existence. And by that logic, the first being to ever give Seo Huiol their heart was the very Uo who Seo Huiol believed had corrupted his main body. Therefore, Seo Huiol's name carries no meaning, as no one had ever given him their heart. What holds meaning in this world is the name, which Seo Huiol himself erased in collaboration with Seo. That's right. The answer to the meaning of himself that Seo Huiol had sought all his life is something he personally annihilated and erased with his own hands. The name, S name, I can't remember it. As Seo Huiol moves towards the core with Seo, he realizes he has been shedding tears without even himself knowing. In truth, I was essentially the same being as from the very beginning. Seo Huiol separated himself and thinking of himself as the victor and as the loser. But, from the start, the two were two different Seo Huiols, split into two possibilities. Because of that, if they wished to become one, they could merge into a single personality at any time. It's not a matter of who takes dominance. It's simply returning to being one. After all, they were one from the start. However, Seo Huiol erased the name and existence of the only one in his life who had received love and could proudly speak of their worth of existence with his own hands. He destroyed his own dream with his own hands. Seo Huiol unknowingly asks Seo a question. Seo, there's something I'm curious about. What is it? Do you think there's any reason for us to be alive? Seo looks at Seo Huiol and speaks. Do you want to kill yourself, Seo Huiol? You're sharp. Yes. That makes sense. I used to think about suicide almost every day back on Earth. If I had managed to take control of everything in the company, I probably would have killed myself because there'd be nothing left to do. And yet, you are still alive. Why haven't you killed yourself? The reason I didn't kill myself back on Earth was because I wanted to sit in the CEO's chair of my company at least once. That's it. Pretty modest, right? But after coming to this world, things changed a bit. In that world, no matter how much I struggled, the highest position I could reach with the time and resources given to me was limited. But this world is different, isn't it? Here, with enough effort, lifespan, resources, and life itself increased dramatically. I became curious about how far I could go and what I could see. So, I haven't killed myself yet, Seo Huiol. Seo. You, Seo Huiol asks with a hollow expression. What meaning does any of that have? At those words, Seo stops and looks directly at Seo Huiol. She is acting as if she is a little tired but holding on to hope, but upon closer inspection, one can see that she also possesses emotionless eyes. I don't know. What? So I'm searching. I've been searching for a long time. I enjoyed finding out how many teeth people I know have, their illnesses, their records, their lives, and everything about them. It was because I wanted to know, what is the meaning of it all? Then, have you found it? That meaning? No. I'm still searching. What clue are you searching with? You. Seo points at Seo Huiol. It used to be co-workers back in the company, but now, I'm searching using you as the clue. For that meaning. What do you mean by that? When I'm with you. Seo finally arrives at the core of Lofty Dragon Star. She arrives at the teleportation formation area. The teleportation formation zone is built from solid, pitch-black rock, with skulls embedded throughout that emit an icy chill, creating an incredibly ominous feeling. Faint devilish energy wafts through the air, and grotesque life forms grow in various places, making it a truly terrifying sight to an unfamiliar observer. And there, in that chilling and dreadful atmosphere, Seo's face flushes red without her realizing it. When I'm with you, there's never a dull moment. My suicidal urges decrease, and there's rarely a moment where I feel like my life is in danger. You take care of my basic needs, assist with my cultivation, and somehow, though I can't fully explain it, there's a softening feeling deep in my chest. When I'm away from you, it's the opposite. My suicidal urges grow, I get scared, and I want to lean on you. The inside of my chest feels cold and hollow. As her explanation continues, Seo Huiol lowers his eyes coldly. Meaning, back on Earth, I read countless psychological and philosophical books and came up with my own definition. I think meaning is something that has a positive influence on oneself. You are a presence that positively influences me, Seo Huiol. So, I will find meaning through you. Seo Huiol slowly caresses Seo's cheek. Then, his pupils slit vertically. You've gained emotions, Seo. It seems that way, though I still don't fully understand the definition of emotion. Seo. Seo Huiol looks directly into Seo's eyes and asks, It seems you love me. Love. Seo Huiol doesn't fully understand its meaning. To be exact, in Agat's dream, in his first life, he thinks he vaguely understood it. But in the lives that followed, he could no longer feel any resonance with the word love. Especially now, after realizing through the Akashic records that his entire life has no meaning. Thus, with his vertical pupils narrowing further, Seo Huiol thinks. This works out well. Until now, Seo Huiol has been racking his brain over how to shake Seo off while descending underground. Seo Eunhyun wants both me and Seo, and we both seem quite important to him. Therefore, if Seo Huiol leaves Ohiaseo behind in lofty Dragon Star and heads to the true Devil Realm, Seo Eunhyun will capture Ohiaseo and temporarily put his pursuit of Seo Huiol on hold. If Seo Huiol can plant false information about himself into Ohiaseo's mind on top of all that, all the better. When Seo Eunhyun interrogates Ohiaseo or uses his senses of earth to read history, he will be misled about Seo Huiol's whereabouts. I must abandon Ohiaseo here to survive. Seo Huiol frantically begins establishing dozens of plans once again. Just moments ago, he had dismissed these plans as meaningless. But why? Seo Huiol began devising plans again after hearing Ohiaseo's words. Yes, that would indeed be best. After quickly turning the gears in his mind, Seo Huiol forms the optimal plan. It is to seize Ohiaseo's body, beyond simply using her body as bait, but using tainted soul filling the heavens to turn it into a configuration and putting it into his own body. One part of Seo Huiol will flee to draw Seo Eunhyun's attention, while the main body, inhabiting Ohiaseo, will be dragged beneath Seo Eunhyun. Seo Eunhyun will certainly conduct an inspection, but it doesn't matter. If it's the few possibilities he discovered in the Akashic records regarding tainted soul filling the heavens, hiding even under Seo Eunhyun's eyes is feasible. Seo Eunhyun will likely attempt to refine Ohiaseo. If she is captured and refined, Ohiaseo's personality will surely collapse. But Seo Huiol is confident he will endure. In this way, he will hide indefinitely under the lamp known as Seo Eunhyun, waiting silently and unnoticed. And someday, when Seo Eunhyun dies or becomes a great being, when Seo Eunhyun stands at the crossroads of those two outcomes, Seo Huiol will emerge into the world once again and infect the universe with himself. Yes, that will do. Suddenly, a question surfaces in Seo Huiol's mind, saying, if I infect the universe, what meaning does that have? But Seo Huiol forcibly ignores the question and grips Ohiaseo's shoulders, asking, if you love me good, then I will ask for one favor. First, with my blood. Seo Huiol. Before that, wait a moment. From the moment he woke up from the dream, Seo Huiol has worn a mask his entire life. Ohiaseo suddenly holds Seo Huiol's cheek and speaks. There's one thing I'm curious about. What is it? At her following words, Seo Huiol narrows his eyelids. I'm curious about your real face. What? I'm talking about your true heart, Seo Huiol. You said you've regained your main body now, right? So, show me your true heart. Seo Huiol suddenly realizes he's heard this question somewhere before. Was it John Hyang? Your Majesty, the Sea Dragon King. I love you. Kiss me. If you don't want to kiss me, Your Majesty, then show me your true face. Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Seo Huiol. I want to see your true heart. Please, show me. If you don't, I will detonate what I received from heaven right here. Seo Huiol recalls the moment he ambushed and killed her. Even as she was dying, she clung to him and begged. If he didn't show her, she seemed ready to lose her mind completely and lash out with suspicious spells. In the end, Seo Huiol had no choice but to reveal his true face to John Hyang. The devilish spell Tainted Soul, Deadly Gaze. It's a devilish spell that forces the target to witness the reality they can least accept and amplifies the emotions tied to that denial. Of course, this only works when what is shown isn't an illusion, but real. After a brief hesitation, Seo Huiol reveals Tainted Soul, Deadly Gaze to Ohiaseo. At the same time, he shows her that horrifying pain, the hatred that Seo Huiol least wants to admit. How strange of me. Is it because of Seo Eunhyun's filling the heavens governing view? Why did I show her such a thing? Seo Huiol remembers John Hyang's final moments. John Hyang, who claimed to love Seo Huiol, saw his pain. The moment she saw the horrifying loathing and hatred embedded in Tainted Soul filling the heavens, she wept and ran away from Seo Huiol. Just moments before, she had asked for a kiss, but upon witnessing his monstrous face, she couldn't endure it. Trembling in agony, she ultimately took her own life. That was John Hyang's end. Ohiaseo won't be able to accept it either. It's just when he thinks so. The next moment, Ohiaseo presses her lips against Seo Huiol's. Their lips meet. After a while, Tainted Soul, Deadly Gaze naturally fades away, and Ohiaseo pulls her head back from Seo Huiol. It must have been hard, Seo Huiol. My stepfather used to do this for me when I was little. He said this is what you do when someone is struggling. Of course, my stepfather kissed my forehead, not my lips, but I thought you'd prefer lips. It's okay, right? Seo Huiol stands there blankly. Then, for some reason, his face distorts like an evil spirit. Crunch. Seo Huiol's grip digs into Ohiaseo's shoulders. You, what are you? His eyes are completely bloodshot. Why am I like this? Even he doesn't understand. This is strange. My mouth, it's moving on its own. I can't control it. What is happening? Why are you doing such a thing for me? You love me? Get rid of your bullshit. It's just your breeding instincts awakening. Get away from me. Don't come any closer. Don't give me these half-hearted comforts. I can't be like this. I need to win Ohio's heart. I need to nest within her and take over her body. I must remain composed. I hated you. From the moment I first saw you, I hated everything about you. You keep trying to figure me out, digging into the deepest depths of my tainted soul, filling the heavens that I deliberately kept hidden. Just why do you keep trying to know? Stop digging into me. Calm down, Seo Huil. Smile like you always do. Make the silly ho-ho laugh and apologize to her. Say that Seo Eunhyun's vile devilish arts briefly made you lose your mind and sweetly whisper into her ear. You pry into others' pasts without permission, expose their hidden parts without permission, spread them, and distort them. Your very essence is so vile, so disgusting, I can't bear it anymore. And why are you so obsessed with exposing even the filth in my heart? Why? Just what part of any of this could possibly be good? Put the mask on, Seo Huil. The mask. Put the mask. And then, the thinking Seo Huil realizes something. The mask. The gentle, smiling mask. The mask that spoke warm words and captivated others. The mask he used to make anyone want to follow him. That was the role he believed belonged to the Sea Dragon King, and Seo Huil had done everything he could to play that role. But suddenly, for the first time in his life, Seo Huil, who is hurling unreasonable and illogical abuse at the being before him without wearing his mask, finally understands. I see. I really hate this. Seo Huil lowers his head, gritting his teeth. I hate myself. To this woman, So, the fact that you are digging into this terrifies me so much. The fact that this is all I have to show you is so horrifying, so pathetic, and so painful. Did I want to show her my true face without wearing the mask? It is the first confession Seo Huil has ever uttered in his life. A confession. Yes, it is a confession revealing his true feelings. And Seo Huil's sincerity is nothing but this hatred built upon hatred since birth. Only hatred and loathing remain. Thus, the sincerity Seo Huil can show without a mask is, in the end, just hatred and loathing. Clench. The hand gripping Ohio's shoulders tightens violently. Kuduk, Kudadudiak. At the same time, Seo Huil's shadow begins to change. From the depths of the dark corridor, his shadow morphs from Seo Huil's form into that of a black dragon. Seo Huil, with blood tears streaming down his face, locks eyes with Ohio. His pupils, which had always slit vertically when he regained his cold composure, are now completely dilated and round. Why do I want to show this woman my true face? Only now does Seo Huil realize it. And at the same time, he understands how terrifying a poison had left inside him. Will never disappear. S voice seems to linger in Seo Huil's ears. It is true. Still exists within Seo Huil. Though the artificial manifestation Seo Eunhyun had engraved into Seo Huil had melted away within the Akashic records, S will, faint as it may be, remains and continues to awaken him. Existence is defined by whose heart you have received. This is the enlightenment had screamed within Seo Huil, and it is also the truth Seo Huil directly confirmed within the Akashic records. Because of that, Seo Huil realizes. But you accepted that me. He has been loved. Even if Ohio's heart is light, uncertain, and faint, Seo Huil received her heart. Believing she loved only his mask, he used the tainted soul deadly gaze to show her even his true face, yet she still kissed him. Yes, only today has Seo Huil truly been born. On this very day, he obtained meaning born through Ohio. Drip, drip, drip. Before Ohio can say anything, Seo Huil presses his forehead against hers while still shedding tears of blood. There's something I need to give you. It's miserable. Seo Huil is feeling an agony more horrifying than any other moment since his birth. When I first opened my eyes, I made an oath. To my origin, I swore to deliver my story. Badudaduk. It's miserable. To the one who has given him a heart of love, what Seo Huil must give in return are the remnants of a painful and agonizing past, remnants so suffocating even Seo Huil himself can barely endure them. It is an oath sworn upon his very existence, and thus it must be upheld. The fact that the only thing he can give to the other is hatred feels unbearably miserable. Seo Huil sincerely resents his past, and is full of torment as he presses his lips against Ohio's. And through Ohio's lips, everything about Seo Huil begins to be sucked in, his tainted soul filling the heavens. The techniques and knowledge he has obtained, the spells he has learned, the fragments of ancient force he obtained in the head realm. The fragment of Agat's dream, nearly broken after gazing into the Akashic records twice with Seo Huil. And beyond that, Seo Huil's entire life, and Seo Huil's hatred. As he transfers all of it to Ohiasio, Seo Huiol's form begins to change. Like his shadow, Seo Huiol transforms into the form of a sea dragon. Huaruruk. From Seo Huiol's sea dragon-formed body, flames erupt. It is Seo Huiol's true origin. Seo Huiol is transferring all his life force and lifespan to Ohiasio. It is to return the lifespan she had sacrificed to make the ritual dedicated to the owner of names. Seo Huiol's body begins to wither. Gradually, his flesh and skin fade away, his blood and organs dry up and crumble into dust. And all that remains in that spot are Seo Huiol's massive bones. From within his bones, Seo Huiol speaks to her with the last remnants of his will. Everything of mine has been passed to you. Within you, I will wait, and I will be reborn as you meet others. Go to the true devil realm and stay there. Hearing those words, Ohiasio staggers, as if still overwhelmed by everything she has received from Seo Huiol. Then, she clutches her chest tightly. Seo Huiol, Seo Huiol. So you're saying, you're inside my heart, right? Isn't that so? So, if I go to the true devil realm and spread tainted soul filling the heavens among its inhabitants, you'll come back, right? For some reason, Ohiasio's chest begins to ache. A pain she had never known starts to spread from her chest. But she has no time to dwell on it. Kuwang. Seo Eunhyun's gang sphere fragment is destroying the entirety of Lofty Dragon Star. The subterranean world shakes, and the teleportation formation trembles violently. Seo Huiol, so you'll come back, right? There's no answer. Usually, when you settled tainted soul filling the heavens within me, you'd answer, okay, I understand. For now, I'll go. I'll go and use my strength so you can revive. And, just in case, I'll take these with me. Ohiasio reaches out, collects Seo Huiol's bones into her integrated Dao domain, and rushes towards the teleportation formation, activating it. Flash. Ohiasio sets off to the true devil realm, the teleportation formation area where Ohiasio vanished. In that place, something begins to form where Seo Huiol once stood. It is the naked body of a man. The naked man rises with a faint smile. Ho ho, did I become a leftover? The memories of my life are quite vivid, but for some reason, the face that once bore the weight of hatred is now no longer visible. But why is it? Why does my chest feel so light? After pondering briefly, Seo Huiol smiles. I see. I entrusted everything to her. Purple soul filling the heavens is a secret art completed through inheritance. And its variant, tainted soul filling the heavens, is the same. Simply, Seo Huiol never knew because he had never passed it on to anyone. Tainted soul filling the heavens has been passed down to Ohiasio, and through that inheritance, it has been completed. In that case, to ensure she can escape, shall I devise every possible scheme? Seo Huiol smiles faintly, gathers some emergency clothing from a corner of the teleportation formation area, and steps onto a teleportation formation leading to the surface. Kugagugugug. Seo Eunhyun's gang sphere clone is crushing the entirety of Lofty Dragon Star, waiting for Ohiasio and Seo Huiol to emerge. Just then, something is caught in Seo Eunhyun's senses. It is a spatial ripple. Did they use a teleportation formation? In that case, at that moment, someone appears before Seo Eunhyun's eyes. It is Seo Huiol, not wearing a dark red robe, but a blue one. It is exactly the same appearance as when Seo Eunhyun first encountered him. Ho ho, greetings, Daoist Seo. Kwajik. But before Seo Huiol can finish his sentence, Seo Eunhyun summons the black ghost curse banner and pins Seo Huiol's arms and legs to a nearby rock wall. Intense pain washes over Seo Huiol, but he does not even flinch. Seo Eunhyun asks Seo Huiol, are you alright, Seo Ran? I will pull you out. Wait. Then, his eyes tremble violently. Seo Eunhyun seems taken aback. You're leftover. Seo Huiol left behind a leftover. That is correct. I took my own life just moments ago. I am merely the leftover left by Seo Huiol's final lingering thought. I plan to carry out the mission he gave me, and then I, too, will end myself. Then, what happened to Seo Ran? What are you talking about, Daoist Seo? Seo Huiol laughs cheerfully and speaks. He was, from the beginning, just one of my other possibilities. I only realized that today. I was surprised by your scheme. You must have known. That's why you forcefully embedded his heart into me, no? Back then, I felt pain because I didn't understand, but now I do. He is I am him. Therefore, distinguishing between me and is meaningless, isn't that right? Seo Eunhyun grabs Seo Huiol by the collar. Seo Ran is no longer visible. However, Seo Huiol realized that he himself is another possibility of Seo Ran. This is because Seo Eunhyun's main body accepted Seo Ran's proposal in order to merge the two personalities into one and rehabilitate Seo Huiol. Seo Huiol is now in the exact state Seo Eunhyun had intended. Whereas Oh Hyeseo, Seo ran. Ho ho, she escaped. To another heavenly domain. Seo ran would never tell such a lie. I am also Seo Huiol after all. A leftover where the two hearts have mixed. Fine. Seo Eunhyun opens his Earth tribe senses and places his hand on Seo Huiol's head. I will see for myself. Stay sti. At that moment. Kwajik. What? Seo Eunhyun is horrified. Blood pours from Seo Huiol's 7 orifices. You. Seo Eunhyun shakes Seo Huiol in shock. However, Seo Huiol does not respond. Seo Eunhyun realizes. Seo Huiol has erased his own personality and memories using one of the secret arts he learned from the Akashic records. Through this, he has prevented his history from being read even by the Earth tribe senses. Seo Huiol dies with a smile. While holding Seo Eunhyun with a few words, he kept him occupied until the spatial ripple that Oh Hyeseo used completely vanished, making it impossible for Seo Eunhyun to track her. Seo Huiol's life force begins to fade away, as he is merely a leftover left by Seo Huiol's lingering thoughts to complete this one mission. It is only natural for him to die this way. Seo Eunhyun looks at the being before him with a complicated expression. When he observed with the newly awakened heart tribe senses at the severing heaven realm, he saw that Seo Huiol's claim of him himself being Seo Ran were not lies. Indeed, the being before him is Seo Huiol, yet also Seo Ran. Seo Eunhyun finally understands the full story. I see. Seo Ran, your heart remained with him. You made Seo Huiol learn what love is. That's what drove him to take his own life. It is the insight of Seo Eunhyun, who has risen to the quasi-immortal realm. He ignored causality and approached the truth in an instant. Tainted soul filling the heavens was passed down to Oh Hyeseo. Did you really decide to live on within her in the form of a heart, Seo Huiol? Seo Huiol does not answer. He merely smiles. Seo Eunhyun senses that this is Seo Huiol's final conclusion. That long, tiresome ill fate with Seo Huiol that spanned from the early cycles. And the connection imbued with memories of Seo Ran. That connection has finally been severed today. Seo Eunhyun decides to honor the being who is both Seo Huiol and Seo Ran. Recognizing that he has brought the long battle with the Sea Dragon King to its conclusion, Seo Eunhyun turns around. Goodbye. Seo Eunhyun suddenly ponders what to call the one left behind. The thought does not last long. The one left behind is Daoist Seo, because he was simply his fellow Daoist. And so, Seo Eunhyun leaves Lofty Dragon Star. In the collapsing Lofty Dragon Star, the leftover, who is both Seo Ran and Seo Huiol. All that is left is the corpse of that leftover. Even until the end, the one who carried Seo Huiol's will and toyed with Seo Eunhyun continues to smile. Thus, Seo Huiol, born mocked by life, mocked the world, and in the end, mocked even himself, closes his eyes. Yet, on this day, his smile appears to be sincere. Perhaps it is because, for the first time in his life, he mocked not for himself, but for the sake of another. At the age of 9,000 years, Seo Huiol found rest. Chapter 538, Vast Cold's Descendant 1. Do. An overwhelming distortion and fissure appear before my eyes. The Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords are descending. However, rather than that, I smack my lips bitterly as I witness Seo Huiol's final moments. It was a long connection. My old friend is gone, just like that. Though I cannot pinpoint the escaped Oh Hyeseo's location with my Gangsphere clone, I am not worried about her. Did Oh Hyeseo inherit tainted soul filling the heavens? I reabsorb my Gangsphere clone and contemplate her future. But, no matter how I think about it, I cannot believe someone like Oh Hyeseo will be able to wield tainted soul filling the heavens as skillfully as Seo Huiol. Tainted soul filling the heavens was such a terrifying immortal art because it was in Seo Huiol's hands. Someone like Oh Hyeseo can never use it like Seo Huiol. I don't know the details, but it seems she fled to the Middle Realms. In that case, sweeping through the Middle Realms later will resolve the issue. If it's me who has attained the entering Nirvana stage 3 great ultimates, such a task is not a problem. Now, even the entirety of the Sun and Moon heavenly domain no longer feels so vast. However, everything must first wait until the immediate crisis before me is resolved. I calm my tense emotions, avoiding direct eye contact with the projections of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords being summoned before me, and speak. What brings the honorable great immortals to descend upon the Sun and Moon heavenly domain? Then, a voice answers. You, heaven-defying one. Did you not distort providence and defy the fated destruction? If life has a conclusion, then so must the world have its end. You have disregarded such principles and recklessly twisted the fate of the world, delaying the end. How can you not realize that this is clear self-righteousness? Destruction is an inevitability for the world's health. Do you realize how many eons of plans have been disrupted because of your mistake? At those words, I bow even deeper and speak. I apologize deeply, but this humble one is merely an insignificant being who knows little of the providence of the great beings. As the great beings have said, I found it too tragic for the living beings of the sun and moon heavenly domain to be annihilated, so I briefly delayed the end. I have spread heaven and earth spiritual energy throughout the entire sun and moon heavenly domain, and after making it so more living beings can ascend to the middle realms, I will not delay the end that arrives next. I beg for this one forgiveness, Nigerian Irio. I just want to give a few more opportunities. Of course, for those that still fail to ascend to the middle realms after receiving the opportunities, there is nothing more I can do. I know that persistently distorting providence is not necessarily the right thing to do, but just once, can they not be given a chance? After all, I, too, reached this position because I was given one more chance. Therefore, I wish to give at least one opportunity to the living beings of the sun and moon heavenly domain, who must face sudden and unexplained death. However, the Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords growl, as if enraged. How arrogant! Do you think someone like you has such a right? Because the fated destruction did not occur, the time of countless heavenly domains have been twisted. The fact that time flows equally in every world and every place is due to the agreement of the great beings. Therefore, we must protect the flow of that time. Yet, because of your actions, the feet of these lords have been tied. If destruction does not befall the sun and moon heavenly domain as scheduled, these lords will not be able to leave to the outer sea. We will eliminate you, the root of this twisted defiance against heavens, judge all those connected to you, and destroy the sun and moon heavenly domain as originally intended to correct the distortion of time. I bow even lower at those words. This humble one has done wrong. Please, punish only this humble one. Punishing the living beings of the sun and moon heavenly domain and those connected to me is far too cruel. Please, grant mercy and forgive this humble one. However, the being at the forefront of the Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords speaks sternly. Impossible. We are beings entrusted with the mission to seek the Great One. We are beings that cannot afford to have our feet tied while correcting the distortion of time. Therefore, eliminating you, the source of this distortion, and all beings entangled in your distortion to recover the balance, is unavoidable. You must willingly accept your rightful punishment. Will you truly not grant forgiveness? You may punish me however you wish. And surely, the great beings can gather the distortions that started with me and spread to my comrades, and concentrate them back onto me and punish me alone. Would that not be possible? Why should we waste such an immortal art on an insignificant being like you? That would be a clear injustice and a waste. Heaven-defying one, if you have committed a sin, then receive your punishment. I exhale deeply, releasing spiritual energy, and rise from my spot. Very well, then let us give this a go, Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords. Though I do not look directly at them, I gaze roughly towards where they stand and shroud myself entirely in the aura of the impermanent sword. Seeing this, the Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords stretch out their hands toward me with a tone filled with pity. Have you gone mad with fear? It cannot be helped. Still, we will send you off without pain. And so begins the clash of wills between me and the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords. Greedy Wolf, heavenly lord, Tonlong, Tanjin. Giant Gate, heavenly lord, Jirmun, Tanjin. Preserving Wealth, heavenly lord, Sun, Tanjin. Literary Melody, heavenly lord, Wenshir, Tanjin. Integrity Chastity, heavenly lord, Lanjun, Tanjin. Martial Melody, heavenly lord, Wuchu, Kanjin. Breaking Army, heavenly lord, Huojin, Tanjin. TL, the titles are all derived from the stars of the Big Dipper. English equivalents are Dubhi, Merak, Fekta, Migres, Alioth, Mizar, Alcade respectively. The projections of the 7 heavenly lords simultaneously extend their hands. As the literary melody heavenly lord raises their hand, a nebula instantly condenses in the void, and a star is born. In the name of this lord, I prophesize. The heaven-defying one will be defeated by the martial melody heavenly lord. When the greedy wolf heavenly lord stretches out their hand, another nebula condenses beside the first, forming another star. In the name of this lord, I prophesize. The heaven-defying one will be beheaded by the breaking army heavenly lord, and his soul will fall into the abyss of the netherworld. Wai Yang, twin stars, Songxing, form in an instant. At the same time, the twin stars etch themselves powerfully into the planes of Qi, Soul, and Fate, forming a scene. In that scene, I am defeated by the being called the martial melody heavenly lord and killed by the being called the breaking army heavenly lord. Woo-woo. The stars emit attraction force. As a result, the plane of fate distorts, and I feel my future being pulled towards that scene. Woo-woo. Simultaneously, the martial melody Heavenly Lord and the breaking army Heavenly Lord step forward. Though only projections, they stretch out their hands and swallow the newly formed stars. The stars enter the approximate location of their dantians and begin spinning rapidly. Immediately after, the martial melody Heavenly Lord begins flying towards me. Geum. With their single punch, I am hurled away without being able to react, crashing into a fixed star within a nearby stellar system. Quaruru. The energy of the fixed star blows fiercely, and flames wrap around my body. That is not the end. Ying. Attraction force distorts space centered around the marital melody Heavenly Lord, drawing in heaven and spiritual energy and beginning to form something. It is an arm. Around the projection of the martial melody Heavenly Lord, terrifying arms begin to emerge, seemingly enveloping the entire universe. One of the arms of the martial melody Heavenly Lord, composed of arms, strikes directly at the fixed star where I am. Karuru. Their arm begins striking the star I have embedded into repeatedly. Quang, quang, quang. Dozens of pillars of fire rise from the fixed star. It seems as if the star will soon shatter. And every time I am struck by that being's blow, I feel my fate being gradually pulled toward the scene of my defeat. At this rate, defeat is certain. The attraction force grows stronger, and the inevitability of my defeat begins to increase. Misfortune begins to engulf me, and ominous omens gradually grow in number. I must destroy it. With my eyes gleaming, I gaze at the star of fate located roughly at the dantian of the martial melody Heavenly Lord. As long as that starlight exists, I will ultimately be drawn to that fate. Wereruruk. I quickly draw the colorless glass sword. Once broken before, the colorless glass sword has at some point revived within my colorless sword enclosure. However, the colorless glass sword no longer holds meaning for me. This is because there is no longer any Dharma treasure that suits the impermanent sword. But Bu Qianghua undoubtedly made this to help me. Clench. I tightly grip the colorless glass sword. At the same time, the colorless glass sword begins to shine. For thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of years. This is the colorless glass sword that has been refined with the glass true fire within my domain. There is no other Dharma treasure more compatible with crystal glass to treading sea than this. Thus, rather than it being called the colorless glass sword, it might as well be called crystal glass to treading sea itself. Wereruruk. The colorless glass sword sheds its sword form and transforms into flame. The glass flame, taking no particular form, moves freely within my hand, amplifying and absorbing all the authority of crystal glass to treading sea and myself. The impermanence sword has no form. Therefore, no Dharma treasure can aid the formless impermanent sword. However, the colorless glass sword, created by Bu Qianghua specifically for me, was made to contain infinite transformations. It was refined with her heart, and later received the hearts of countless others to become completed as crystal glass to treading sea. Thus, only the colorless glass sword, which inherited the will of crystal glass to treading sea, can embody the impermanent sword. The colorless glass sword that has become glass true fire itself, transforms endlessly under my will and begins to bend into thousands of curves and straight lines. At the same time, the severing mountain swordsmanship that has completely lost its form begins to unfold. Huang. As I grip and swing the colorless glass sword, countless principles of martial arts I have realized unravel in a single stroke, bending into thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of millions of trajectories to form sword techniques. Transcending peaks, entering mountains, climbing veins, flowing hills, solid rock, strange stone, deep mountain, hidden valley, mountain and river painting, dragon vein, precipice, 800 million creation emerging peak. Bye-bye. The first part of severing mountain swordsmanship, which combines fundamental sword basics, begins to deflect the arms of the martial melody Heavenly Lord. However, the martial melody Heavenly Lord, with movements that also carry their own martial principles, ride their hundreds of millions of arms as they crawl and pierce into my sword domain. Yet, inside the breached sword domain, even more ruthless sword techniques await. No, these are no longer just techniques. Joy of mountains and peaks, Chi mountain heart heaven, layered mountains, mountain tiger, mountain and valley transformation, echoing valley, mountain echoes valley response, 9 mountains 8 seas, heavenly lake, severing mountain. The extremes of cutting, splitting, tearing, blocking, deflecting, absorbing, and countering, all the ultimates of attack, are melted into something greater. What unfolds through the colorless glass sword is the very will to cut down. Endless mountains beyond mountains. Foolish old man moves mountains. I incorporate 2 more concepts into the sword technique, gradually growing stronger. As time passes, I absorb not only the martial melody Heavenly Lord's power, but also the recoil from our body to slowly, but surely grow stronger. But the attraction force emanating from within the martial melody Heavenly Lord begins to gradually pull me into the scene of defeat. Ridiculous misfortunes and ill fates start to stack against me, and the gaps I am forced to reveal provide countless opportunities for the martial melody Heavenly Lord. At last, their arms pierce into my domain once again. The domain formed from the sword techniques, derived from sincerely researching the applications of sword energy, the combination of intent and martial principles permits the martial melody Heavenly Lord's movements. However, the storm raging around me has not yet subsided. Up until now, the place where the arms of the martial melody Heavenly Lord have intruded are within the domain of basic sword techniques and application of sword energy unfolded by the colorless glass sword. However, from this point onwards, the domain I unfold is the domain of the impermanent sword. Swordsmanship integrating heaven, earth, and heart begins to unravel. Pat it. A pure white light bursts forth, and rays of sea of righteousness and mountain of grace erupt from my entire body. Thousands, hundreds of millions, trillions of strands of sea of righteousness and mountain of grace become a storm blowing around me. The storm of light begins to sweep the surroundings, tearing apart the arms of the martial melody Heavenly Lord's arms. One annihilation to the near shore explodes, further strengthening the storm of light. Through guiding to the summit, countless fine lines within the storm of light writhe and pierce into the martial melody Heavenly Lord and begin exploding. From within, sword formations activate, creating a domain of 12,000 peaks that begins to shatter the arms of the martial melody Heavenly Lord. Through boundless Tao to the other shore, what seems like a one-time phenomenon of this storm of light instead continues to dance without end, endlessly growing stronger as it intertwines with foolish old man moves mountains. With deep mountain, emerging Tao, the storm of light crosses the planes of Qi, soul, and fate, utilizing that overwhelming speed to repel the martial melody Heavenly Lord's body with overwhelming force. At the same time, a brief opening appears in the martial melody Heavenly Lord's movements. Using accumulating dust forms a mountain, I merge the storm of light into one. A single sky-splitting strike containing all of me bursts upon the body of the marital melody Heavenly Lord. The rough outline of their projections Dantian is exposed. Through transcending mountain ridge embedment, the lower abdomen of the martial melody Heavenly Lord, who is thinking about me, ruptures, fully exposing the star of prophecy hidden within their Dantian to the world. Then comes the combination move of Sumeru and Kunlun. The move of Sumeru that I had to previously draw strength through a sword dance to activate is now in a state that is practically no different from constantly performing a sword dance through the impermanent sword, eliminating the casting time entirely. Thus, without any hesitation, I borrow the power of the sun and moon heavenly domain through Sumeru and launch the thrust of Kunlun. Flash. At that moment, a tiny hole appears on the star of prophecy. But that is all. The prophetic star remains intact. However, I leave my will within the star of prophecy using transcending mountain ridge embedment and guiding to the summit. Immediately after, the will follows my intention, and the 35th move of severing mountain swordsmanship, cedarwood, activates. From within the star of prophecy, countless manifestations of the heart tribe begin to burst forth. Zhang X4 treasures annihilating heaven's blade. Kim Young-hoon surpassing radiant creation form, non-toppling non-standing, endless cold window, illusory play under the rosy afterglow, mountain repelling whip, sudden wind sudden rain, flower soul, Jean Miyul's fighting step. The countless dreams of the heart tribe shatter the dream of the northern dipper 7 heavenly lords head on. Jiang, the star of prophecy collapses, and the dream they had in that fleeting moment. The future where I am defeated crumbles away. Quang, slightly staggering from the explosion caused by cedarwood, the martial melody Heavenly Lord exchanges glances with the other heavenly lords. Truly remarkable. It does not feel good to destroy one so exceptional with our own hands. But the distortion must be corrected. Then, the giant gate Heavenly Lord, the preserving wealth Heavenly Lord, and the integrity chastity Heavenly Lord each raise their hands. I prophesize. The providence of the sun and moon heavenly domain shall perceive the price of the distortion. I prophesize. O providence that is known to all, I shall pay the price for that distortion. I prophesize. The price of distortion shall rightfully return to the heaven-defying one as retribution. Kugagugagu. 3 stars are born, and 3 fates are ordained. At the same time, across the entire sun and moon heavenly domain, the aftermath of end I deferred begins to surface. Gugugagu. As the price for the postponed end, the terrifying distortion of the universe begins to twist me. The space where I stand distorts. Simultaneously, the very spot I occupy seems on the verge of collapse. Guk, guguk, guguguguk. However, I begin to gradually escape the distorted space, carrying the impermanence sword within me. At that moment, the greedy wolf heavenly lord raises their hand again. Seeing this, I can't help but be shocked. Insane. Could it be? I prophesize. A future where the heaven-defying one is swallowed by a black hole is seen. Quadudaduck. Along with the distortion of the space I am standing in, a black hole of the universe begins to form directly behind me. The black hole, too, is a star of prophecy, and because of that prophetic star, my body starts getting sucked into the black hole. The gravity of the black hole begins to violently compress my body. Of course, under normal circumstances, something like this black hole would not be an issue, but the problem is the breaking army heavenly lord. The prophetic star inside the belly of the breaking army heavenly lord. The prophecy that I will be beheaded and killed by the breaking army heavenly lord is gradually approaching. The more I am compressed by the black star, the harder it becomes to move my body, and the breaking army heavenly lord slowly approaches me. I grit my teeth tightly and begin to rise from my position. Waruruk. The colorless glass sword blazes, engulfing my body and helping me rise. As expected, severing mountain swordsmanship alone isn't enough. After using the impermanence sword once, I can understand. This impermanence sword, which reaches complete impermanence, cannot fully unleash its power with conventional sword techniques that possess form. I must create it. Here and now, I must create a swordsmanship capable of fully unleashing the impermanence sword. Can I do it? At some point, my void perception has grown and grown, reaching a level that can be compared to Kim Young-hoon. However, I truly do not know if my martial arts will yield a good result. Right. But I smile and raise myself up completely. Let's believe in myself. I am a fool and a dullard. However, as I said to Seo Huiol, I have reached this point by overcoming countless adversities, failures, and defeats. If I am such a fool, I will be able to overcome whatever adversity comes my way. If I can't create it, I will fix it. Fix it, and fix it again, until I reach the right answer, even within failure. Walking forward without giving up. That is the way a dullard fights. Why Yang? I begin to condense the forms of the severing mountain swordsmanship. The 36 techniques are undeniably powerful, and among them, the 36th move I've envisioned holds such devastating might that, if completed, I feel I could slay a true immortal even at the sacred vessel stage. However, the techniques other than the 36th are ultimately unsuitable for wielding the impermanence sword. Therefore, to properly wield the impermanence sword, I begin refining a sword form to properly reach the impermanence sword. The first 12 moves of severing mountain swordsmanship. A sword art, Janyit, that was created by combining the fundamentals of the sword. I compress them into a single form. The middle 12 moves of severing mountain swordsmanship. A sword style, Janshru, that reaches the pinnacle of the sword through combining the mastery of sword energy and intent. I refine them into a single form. Excluding the 36th, the final 11 moves of severing mountain swordsmanship. A sword doctrine, Janshia, that integrates the three powers of heaven, earth, and heart to expand the domain of the sword and elevates the very potential of the sword itself. I birth them as a single form. Thus, the three sword forms are created. Keying. In the next moment, I unleash the impermanent sword. Chwerarek. The first form, born from the first 12 moves of severing mountain swordsmanship. Entering heaven. Flash. Countless stances and forms of the sword combine, shattering the black hole behind me. The second form, born from the middle 12 moves of severing mountain swordsmanship. Treading heaven. Kirariring. The impermanence sword surges wildly, combining countless sword styles. With just a thought, destructive power erupts, shattering the three prophetic stars summoned by the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords. I prophesize, but they begin to prophesize once again, as expected of true immortals. And not just any true immortals, but as high-ranking ones. They display overwhelming majesty, recklessly welding prophecies that would require dozens of entering nirvana's countless years of painstaking effort to just cough out one. 7 stars of fate are born again. 7 stages leading to my defeat unfold before my eyes. However, the third form, created through the final moves of severing mountain swordsmanship, punishing heaven, Fatan. The next moment, the glass of the crystal glass to treading sea seems to sweep across the entire star system and the cosmic space, shattering the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords and all their prophetic stars. This is the sword form that maximizes the potential of the impermanent sword. Severing heaven sword form, Dantan Janshing. Let us continue. This will be completely different from before. Chapter 539, Vast Cold's Descendant 2. The 3 forms included in severing heaven sword form. The words that can describe the sword will contained in these forms are as follows. First form, entering heaven. This is also referred to as hand commands. Swordsmen refer to it as hand commands sword. and the sword will of entering heaven can be described as freely wielding the sword within one's own hand. Chwak. I hold the colorless glass sword and begin to swing it. Now, both the speed of my movements and the preparation time have reached the point where they can be said to be as fast as light. Starting from severing mountain swordsmanship, every sword technique I've seen from martial artists during my time in the martial world, the flying sword techniques of cultivators, the natural disasters I witnessed in bright cold realm, and the principles of the universe I observed while traveling through the astral realm. All of them burst forth in a single motion, Isho. Chwerareric. At first, it seems almost like scribbles. Lines and dots crossing each other meaninglessly, as if a child had wildly brushed a painting. But soon, the dots and lines begin to converge around me, consuming the surroundings with countless trajectories. This is, rather, an explosion. Chwerareric. The explosion of martial arts seems to devour the surrounding space. A storm of countless slashes appears to consume the surrounding area in an instant. The projections of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords momentarily retreat. I quickly prepare the next form. Second form, treading heaven. This is also referred to as I commands. Since ancient times, among martial artists and flying sword cultivators, it has been referred to as a swordsmanship that freely unfolds within one's field of vision or domain of consciousness. Pat it. It is light. No, to be precise, it is a trajectory. Thousands, tens of thousands of light trajectories split through the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords. Countless curves and straight lines tear through the heavenly lords, then scatter apart and detonate nearby planets and fixed stars. Simultaneously, the trajectories move freely, changing form on the spot and twisting their paths. Perhaps, with the second form of severing heaven sword form now complete, it could rival surpassing Radiant Saber in pure speed alone. I watch as the trajectories extend according to my will, returning, splitting, overlapping, bending, twisting, and softly connecting. The trajectories chase after the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords like living entities, relentlessly pursuing their projections. At the same time, the eyes of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords shine. How troublesome. Yet, that's all. It's time to bring this to an end. In the name of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords, we prophesize. The Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords scatter to different positions and stretch their arms towards me. Kugagugagugu. Stars begin to form in the cosmic space. At the same time, scenes are reflected within the interior of the stars. Heaven-defying one. After 3 breaths, you shall gaze upon us. It is a simple and clear prophecy that, in approximately 3 seconds, I will gaze upon them. But is it because it is such a simple prophecy? I can sense that the attraction force of this prophetic star is more powerful than any they have created so far. However, I silently reveal the third form. Third form, punishing heaven. This is also called heart commands or heart command sword, a form capable of fully drawing out the power of the impermanent sword. At the same time, if up to treading heaven represents the ultimate limit that can be reached solely by pursuing martial arts, then punishing heaven requires pursuing something beyond martial arts. Upsilon. The impermanent sword is not only the manifestation of my entering heavens, but also my immortal art. Until now, I have been wielding this immortal art merely as a formless sword. However, the true ability of the impermanence sword has not yet been revealed. Every immortal art possesses its own unique ability. As I take a single breath, it seems as if countless crystal glass sword mountains are shining around me. The true ability of the impermanent sword. It is, precisely, retribution, Yingba. Retribution. Also known as causality retribution. The meaning of this concept is incredibly simple. You reap what you sow. You receive as much as you give, is the essence of the term retribution. I have pondered over and over about freedom. I have contemplated how to escape the oppressive attraction force of fate. And in doing so, my thoughts arrived at the idea of giving and receiving. To receive as much as one gives. Isn't that the essence of true freedom? Isn't the reason why the beings of this world are not free because they cannot receive as much as they have given, or cannot give as much as they have received? That is my thought. Therefore, everything must be returned in equal measure to what was given. If I return as much as I have received, my heart will be unburdened and light. If I receive as much as I have given, I will likewise have no worries and remain light. Perhaps people are beings that can become free simply by maintaining the balance of giving and receiving. Chwerareric. In the moment that thought takes hold in my heart, countless sword trajectories begin to revolve around me. The trajectories soon form a circle, and within the circle, a mandala begins to be drawn. Upon witnessing the shape of the mandala, the expressions of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords seem to change. That is, you. Kirareric. The mandala spins and settles behind my head like a halo. I stare directly at the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords. However, nothing happens. I do not die. What is drawn within the mandala is the sun and moon heavenly domain. It is a mandala that symbolizes the entirety of this world. To give and receive is, in other words, to form a connection. My immortal art, the impermanent sword, as a sword that truly pursues freedom, can give and receive power not only with the planes of chi, soul, and fate, but also with the interdimensional void, the netherworld, the eastern heaven flower field, and the source river, all layered upon the astral realm. Simply put, the formless sword, which once freely roamed the three planes, can now move beyond both the three planes and the 5 dimensions. For example, I can now borrow power from the underworld, the source river, or the eastern heaven flower field to directly face a true immortal without advancing. This is a feat and miracle that only I, who has thrown my life into countless deaths and understood the nature of death to its limits, can achieve. The only quasi-immortal who can gaze upon a true immortal and remain unscathed is I. Have you finished what you needed to do? Of course, the power I am currently borrowing from the sun and moon heavenly domain is not merely power from places like the underworld or the source river. I raise my hand with a meaningful smile. The sword trajectories seem to change infinitely, altering the shape of the mandala. The mandala begins to bloom even further. In truth, there is no real reason to draw a mandala. The mandala merely provides slight assistance when using immortal arts, and the ability to give and receive can still be used solely through my impermanent sword. The mandala itself holds no special significance. However, this is a matter of courtesy. Courtesy towards those who lend me their power and those who accept mine. Therefore, although it serves no purpose in battle, I begin to draw the mandala while borrowing strength. The power of the entire sun and moon heavenly domain begins to pour into me. Keying. Power begins to surge wildly throughout my entire body. Because I have shown goodwill to the entire sun and moon heavenly domain, the entire sun and moon heavenly domain is showing goodwill to me. Although the blessing of vast cold, which raised my rank proportionate to goodwill, had been consumed as a one-time phenomenon, the power flooding towards me is separate from that. The reason I do not die despite borrowing the power of the sun and moon heavenly domain instead of the underworld. It is because since I prevented the end of the sun and moon heavenly domain, the sun and moon heavenly domain does not wish for my end either. I have formed a connection with this world. Right now, for this one moment, I am undying. Looking up at the northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords, I half open my eyes in the center of the undying power I have obtained. If it's this much, it's doable. Kugugugugu. Behind my head, the 3 great ultimates begins to rotate fiercely. Until now, I had merely kept it afloat, allowing it to spin lightly from time to time, but had it remained stationary in its manifested form otherwise? The reason was simple. Because I have become too strong. If I had amplified my power too much with the strength of the 3 great ultimates, I would have likely reached the immortal domain and might as well have ended up challenging the true immortal advancement. But as the price for postponing the end of the sun and moon heavenly domain, my own death has also been deferred, making me undying. Therefore, even if I fully draw upon the power of the 3 great ultimates, I will not advance. Paot. As the 3 great ultimates rotates, the boundaries between them vanish. At the same time, I feel my entire body being dyed pure white. Pat it. Oh, it feels as if my whole body is burning. No, my entire body is already burning with something pure white. White. I have become power itself that is dyed in pure white light. This is the fully drawn power of the 3 great ultimates in the entering nirvana stage. Feeling the explosive authorities surging within me, I stare directly at the northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords. Their expressions have completely changed. Have we misjudged? It is a rather terrifying force. Though far inferior to vast cold during their quasi-immortal era, it is to the point of being reminiscent of them. Regardless of the magnitude of power, the scale of his actions rivals that of the golden divine. With that level of power, we cannot allow him to cause chaos at the scale of the golden divine and disrupt the providence of the entirety of Mount Sumeru. Today, here and now, we must sever this root. They sincerely glare at me and begin drawing forth their rank. Once again, they and I clash. In the name of the northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords, I prophesize. Once more, a star is born. I fake charging towards the giant gate heavenly lord, who created the star, then immediately change my trajectory and charge at the breaking army heavenly lord. The target is the star of prophecy within the breaking army heavenly lord, still locking my future into beheading. I, having become power itself, collide with the breaking army heavenly lord. I see it. The breaking army heavenly lord instantly creates a star within their body. In the scene shown by the star, the breaking army heavenly lord holds their ground against me without yielding. They counter my attacks while continuously creating small planets and storing them within their body. The planets they create bring them light fortune while imposing moderate misfortune upon me. Though their martial prowess is far beneath mine, they calmly counter my attacks with appropriate prophecies, seizes opportunities for counterattacks, and keeps my feet tied. This one is no martial artist or fighter, but a general. As a commander directing the battlefield, they use themselves as bait to hold me down and systematically exploit my weaknesses. Boom. In the cosmic space, the breaking army Heavenly Lord's palm strike crashes into my chest. I am flung across an immense distance, but they quickly arrive before me, clenching their fist. Ujijijik. My entire body feels as if it's being crushed under attraction force. They raise both palms towards my body, which has become pure white power itself, and unleash countless palm strikes. Tung, 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 tung. Though their palm strikes do not deliver significant damage to me, they directly hit various points of my body that have been enlarged through my combat technique form, embedding planets or satellites into me. Each one carries misfortune and prophecy that cannot be ignored, and I gradually begin to be pushed back against the breaking army Heavenly Lord. The other Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords are also a problem. While clashing one-on-one with the breaking army Heavenly Lord, I survey the surroundings. The Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords are continuously creating stars, while making prophecies aimed at me as I confront the breaking army Heavenly Lord. Gradually, my shoulders grow heavy, and I feel as though my throat is being choked. Coincidental misfortunes continue to accumulate, driving me into a corner. Severing Heaven Sword Form. Second Form. Treading Heaven. Chwererarik. Countless curves and straight lines sweep across the vicinity. The trajectories of those straight and curved lines undulate throughout the universe, beginning to shatter the stars. As the stars collapse, the fates binding me also begin to crumble. The breaking army Heavenly Lord's palms come flying at me once more. I clash with the breaking army Heavenly Lord in close proximity with the first form of Severing Heaven Sword Form, entering heaven, while continuously intercepting and destroying the prophetic stars with Treading Heaven. This is the projection of a high true immortal. If I face them one-on-one, victory seems possible. However, I cannot completely fend off the combined coordination of all 7 Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords. An absolute deadlock. An overwhelming sense of defeat. Victory thickens on the enemy's side. No future remains visible to me. Even so, I smile faintly. Despair is already all too familiar. How many times in my life have I been cornered, felt the shadow of defeat, suffered pain, and tasted despair? The number of times in my life that I felt, this is the end, is not just once or twice. Is the despair I felt back when thugs chased me out of my soap business any different from the despair I feel now, cornered by the Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords? It is not. Both are the same despair. Only the scale and circumstances have changed slightly. The weak have the despair of the weak, and the strong have the despair of the strong. Those born strong rarely face such despair, so they train themselves to ensure they will never fall into it. But for those born as the weak, life itself is despair. That is why we cultivate the heart to always stand up again even when plunged into despair. I have always been weak. Therefore, I will not fall. The pinnacle of the basics of the sword that I have grasped, wielded, and explored throughout my life. The single strikes of entering heaven begin to reach the breaking army Heavenly Lord. Hakon, a planet forming on the breaking army Heavenly Lord's shoulder shatters. One of the fortunes working in their favor falls away. The trajectories of Treading Heaven launch upward, destroying the newly formed star of prophecy. One of the destructive fates imposed upon me collapses. One step. Tuckwang. I strike the breaking army Heavenly Lord's pelvis, tearing into their waist. Once again, planets are ripped away. Minor misfortunes gradually fall off my shoulders. 2 steps. Entering heaven and Treading Heaven link together, relentlessly pressuring the breaking army Heavenly Lord. Finally, both arms of breaking army Heavenly Lord's projection are severed. Though they will regenerate anyway, for a fleeting moment, a gap emerges. 3 steps. Following entering heaven and Treading Heaven, the form of punishing heaven begins to dance within my chest. The mandala seems to bloom, and my impermanent sword passes through the interdimensional void, the eastern heaven flower field, the source river, and the underworld in an instant, swiftly reaching the astral realm. A single strike, imbued with the power of the 5 dimensions, pierces the breaking army Heavenly Lord's chest, slicing their upper body cleanly in half. Quang. Boundless starlight bursts forth from the Heavenly Lord's projection, dyeing the entire world. Here I go. Through punishing heaven, the authority of the impermanence sword begins to shine at its maximum capacity. All those who have given and received hearts with me throughout all this time, the hearts of all those people begin to burst forth through the form of manifestation. Retribution is not simply about giving and receiving power with the world. Giving and receiving hearts can also be a form of retribution in itself. green, deep crimson, sunset, white, black, light pink, sky blue. Countless rays of colored light head towards the Danteon of the cleaved breaking army Heavenly Lord. Flash. Light explodes. And with that, it ends. The prophecy within the breaking army Heavenly Lord that I would be beheaded bursts apart by my hands. Tukwakwang. Along with that, the projection of the breaking army Heavenly Lord explodes. Chi. After watching the exploding projection of the breaking army Heavenly Lord turn into starlight and scatter, I continue to look at the Northern Dipper's 7 Heavenly Lords, who are preparing their prophecy in the distance. Astounding. To endure our interference with merely the body of an entering nirvana, and still suppress a true immortal. Even if it is just a projection, to possess the potential to defeat a true immortal one-on-one, it is a fearsome talent. With such talent, with such a fate, and yet, you, who dare mock and distort the providence of the heavenly domain, we cannot overlook you any longer. Why? The light emanating from the bodies of the Northern Dipper's 7 Heavenly Lords begins to intensify. Tingle, tingle. I feel goosebumps rising on my skin from the sheer rank they are releasing. But it does not stop at just slightly raising their rank. The greedy wolf Heavenly Lord sends a transmission somewhere. Then, familiar figures begin to gather. Damn it. So it has come to this after all. Chiak, choke, chiak. Following the will of the Northern Dipper's 7 Heavenly Lords, 48 entering nirvana true persons that are summoned by them begin to surround me. Even a beast gives its all when hunting small prey. We apologize for underestimating you. In return, we will now use every means at our disposal to utterly crush you. Chwereric. At the same time, I see the form of the breaking army Heavenly Lord, who had scattered into starlight behind me, returning. Of course, among them, the breaking army Heavenly Lord seems to be in the worst condition, but everything is returning to the starting point in the end. Can I really defeat them all? No matter how highly I evaluate myself, I am worth only one true immortal. But these are 7 true immortals, along with a group of entering nirvana true persons capable of fulfilling the role of 1.5 additional true immortals. In essence, it is no different from fighting 9 true immortals. I let out a low groan and spin the 3 great ultimates even more fiercely. There's no other choice. Even if I despair, what cannot be done cannot be done. Nothing will change just because I despair. I will not give up, just as I never have before. And so, greedy wolf, giant gate, preserving wealth, literary melody, integrity chastity, martial melody, and breaking army. The 7 true immortals simultaneously reach out towards me. In the name of the Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords, we prophesize. At that moment, pat it. From somewhere, from a faraway place, someone transmits their will to me. That place is Lofty Dragon Star. The Lofty Dragon Star where Seo Huiol met his conclusion. From there, someone is looking at me. And then, they speak to me. Think about what you have. Chills. I meet their gaze. And as I see them touching the traces of Seo Huiol, I feel chills running down my entire body. Draped in a dark red robe and covering the entire Lofty Dragon Star with red coral, that being looks at me with chilling blood eyes and speaks. Heaven, earth, heart. Do you think that is all? Do you not have something even more precious? Something precious. However, separate from the fear I feel towards this being, I listen carefully to his advice. And I immediately understand. He's talking about Quorum. It feels like lightning striking my mind. I've never once considered using it in such a way. But the moment I hear his words, I realize it is entirely possible. Suppressing the tremors that rise from my chest, I quietly offer him my gratitude. Thank you for your advice. The projections of the Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords seem puzzled, but I can't stop myself from smiling. Why didn't I think of something so simple? Well, in truth, it's been less than 2 days since I advanced to the entering nirvana stage of the 3 great ultimates. I simply haven't had time to try various things. Why Yang? The fiercely spinning 3 great ultimates. Following his advice, I add one more thing to that 3 great ultimates. Heaven, earth, heart, and wheel. Above the spinning 3 great ultimates, the wheel overlaps. Of course, I can still feel that the wheel hasn't been completely added to the 3 great ultimates. When the wheel is completely added to the 3 great ultimates, I feel as if something utterly terrifying would emerge. But for now, there is only one result from adding the 2. An amplification of power through a new pathway. Just as I once amplified power through the Mad Lord's puppet circuits, now I can achieve the same through the authority of the wheel. Why Yang? Though imperfect and slightly awkward, the wheel and the 3 great ultimates overlap. However, the moment they combine, I explode. The universe trembles. This is no joke. No metaphor, but the literal description. I can feel the entirety of the sun and moon heavenly domain vibrating under my power. The expressions of the Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords turn urgent, and the entering nirvana true persons scatter their shocked intent as they begin to flounder around in confusion. In this moment when heaven, earth, heart, and wheel have combined, I realize, quite literally, that I have obtained a power akin to that of a god. The power and senses amplified through the three great ultimates and the wheel. Beyond them, I faintly hear Baek Woon's voice from the distant middle realm. Vast, vast cold. Following her words, the greedy wolf heavenly lord speaks in a trembling voice. Vast cold heavenly lords, return. Feng. This is absurd. How could such a horrifying event occur? How could you possess such power in your hands? After only 500,000 years, is the world truly about to face great chaos once again? The Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords begin to exude a vicious killing intent as they erupt in rage. I swallow my spiritual energy and look at them. They are preparing to fight in earnest. Can I do this? Then once again, that familiar message reaches me. Raise your head. What you bear is not something that one who lowers their head can dare to carry. Lofty dragon star. From there, a dark red light begins to bloom. I can feel it. A being from the interdimensional void is descending into the sun and moon heavenly domain in their true form. Right now, you are on equal footing with this immortal. The likes of the imperfect projections of the Northern Dipper are nothing to you in your current state. Why are you giving me such advice? You do not need to know. However, for as long as you face them, I will support you. You must not bring shame to the name of what you bear. Thank you. You, Bloodine. For as long as you carry it, I am Bloodine before you. Thank you, Bloodine. That's right. The one who has advised me to overlap the wheel and the three great ultimates is Bloodine. That being, also known as the seat holder of vice, has begun to support me. All the beings of the universe are trembling. In particular, those who have lived for over 500,000 years are trembling like aspen trees, recalling the terrifying existence from 500,000 years ago. Since that terrifying being also defeated upper immortals, Songshan, during their entering nirvana era, the traces of that terrifying being can't help but be seen on Seo Eunhyeon. Among them, the Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords, along with Baek Woon and the other sacred masters of the Middle Realms, are literally writhing as if in a seizure. The forms of the Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords begin to change. Until just now, they had projected themselves in their transformation state, intending to send off Seo Eunhyeon in a somewhat gentle manner. But now, their projections begin to reveal their cosmic true forms. As if determined to eradicate this absurd existence here and now, down to the very roots. Yes, they are undoubtedly afraid of Seo Eunhyeon. In him, they see the nightmare of 500,000 years ago. They see the potential of the Tridacna vast cold heavenly king. However, even as every ruler in the sun and moon heavenly domain trembles, there is one being who does not, and instead stares calmly at Seo Eunhyeon. It is Bloodine, seated upon and eroding the lofty dragon star, descending into the sun and moon heavenly domain. Beside Bloodine is Jai Eum, wearing a purple robe and standing with a bright and clear expression. Have you finally come to your senses? Oh, Bloodine, perhaps your neck. Silence. With a confused expression, Bloodine cuts off Jai Eum's words and mutters as he gazes at the place where Seo Eunhyeon is fighting. There is simply something I wish to see. Thus begins the battle of Seo Eunhyeon, who has intertwined the 4 systems of power of heaven, earth, heart, and wheel to bring the potential of the vast cold heavenly lord from 500,000 years past to his hands, and the Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords, who are convulsing with fear at the nightmare of that time and ready to unleash their full strength. The entirety of the sun and moon heavenly domain begins to tremble. Chapter 540, Vast Cold's Descendant 3. Chapter 540, Vast Cold's Descendant 3. The beginning is marked by my voice, declaring the start of the battle. Stars of the nations, hear me. Do-do-do-do. The star veins of the entire universe begin to twist under my will. At the same time, starlight begins to rearrange itself around me, who radiates waves of immense power. Though the actual constellations remain unmoved, the illusions of constellations are projected across the universe, arranged by my will like the projections of true immortals. A total of 36 projections of fixed stars are arranged around me. Everything is aligned according to the orientation of the 6 harmonies. 6 stars facing upward towards the heavenly direction. 6 stars facing downward towards the earthly direction. In the 4 directions, east, west, south, and north, 6 stars are arranged in a row in each direction. The distance between each fixed star is 100 light-years. A spherical star vein formation with a radius of approximately 700 light-years centered on me takes shape. The sheer size of the star vein formation is enough to engulf an entire tidal tail. I declare, this place shall be this immortal's sword enclosure, forged in my name and made into a vast battlefield. This is one of the basic immortal arts of entering nirvana true persons, taught to me by Yi, called opening enclosure. The effect of opening enclosure is to assimilate the interior of the star vein formation with one's inner star enclosure. Qifeng. Within the star vein formation, boundaries of sky and ground begin to form. At the same time, attraction force emerges on the ground, and the four directions of east, west, south, and north take shape centered on me. Sword mountains of colorless glass sprout from the earth, filling the world. The inside of the colorless sword enclosure becomes a world with 6 stars underground, 6 stars in the sky dome, and 6 stars each in east, west, south, and north. The projections of the fixed stars, forming the foundation of these stars, begin to manifest the colorless sword enclosure. Waruruk. As I shoot out star tribulation and supply star veins to the stars I just projected, the projections of the fixed stars, which serve as the axis of the star vein formation, become even more solidified, beginning to substantially reveal the colorless sword enclosure. Those countless actions happen in a fleeting moment, and I instantly shift the battlefield to a place advantageous to me as I glance around at the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords and the entering nirvana true persons. Do. My gaze alone makes them flinch and step back slightly. I can feel it. Right now, I am absolute. There is no need to use the immortal speech of the true immortals. Just a simple mental speech, something any cultivator can use, is enough. Come in. In the name of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords. Immortal treasure 7 stars harnessing God banner. Qixing Jiashan Fan. Descend upon this place. Flash, flash, flash. 7 beams of light flicker beyond the distant sky, and in an instant, 7 clusters of light are summoned to this place. Jium. They are banners. On the surface of each banner, it seems as if one star is sealed within. While the power of an individual banner might not seem significant, the combined momentum of the 7 banners is substantial. On one side of each banner, the words 7 stars harnessing God, Qixing Jiashan, are inscribed, and on the reverse side, Northern Dipper sealing immortal, Bengvishan, is written. Clang, clang, clang. Between the 7 banners, I briefly glimpse an energy akin to chains. I can feel it. If I am struck by those 7 banners, my power will be bound by those chain-like things. Wawum. It seems the 7 stars harnessing God banners are not even ordinary sacred vessels, but instead operate using the split souls of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords. While they might not be as convenient as sacred vessels, the connection to the main bodies must be incredibly strong if they are activated in such a way. However, even with such fearsome immortal treasures appearing, even with the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords abandoning their transformation states and gradually changing into forms resembling the stars of the universe, pressing down on me, even with 48 entering nirvana cultivators surrounding me, growling, I do not feel as if I will lose. The only thing that catches my eye is the energy emanating from the 7 stars harnessing God banners they hold. It is the power of the 7 stars I can sense from them. That's right. 7 stars, Qixing. That is an energy all too familiar to me. It was you all along. I grit my teeth and pull up the corners of my mouth. Truly, I wanted to see them. If they had tangible forms, I wanted to face them, even if just once. To me, the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords are existences with a truly, truly deep connection with me. Are you, the divine spirits overseeing the Qi refining 7 stars ritual? No, there is no need to ask, because the wisdom conveyed to me through the 7 stars harnessing God banners they summoned already says as much. That the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords are the divine entities presiding over the 7 stars ritual of the Qi refining stage. Yes, the 28 stars I had cried out to in the heavens over and over again. The ones who govern the power associated with those 28 stars are none other than the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords. Come, truly, I have long wished to compete with you. Then, the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords begin to unleash their power. Why Yang? Their prophecy imprints itself upon the world through sheer will, and stars begin to form. However, the colorless sword enclosure has already been unfolded. Boom. When I swing the form of treading heaven, countless rays of light seem to shoot sideways before piercing into the glass sword mountains and reflecting off them like mirrors, crashing into the forming stars and shattering them. The Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords begin to move. Why Yang? In their forms akin to stars, they start to circle around me, summoning their disciples. 48 true persons join the battle. They follow in the wake of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords, spiraling around me in a circle. Then, at some point, centered on the rotation of the Northern Dipper 7 heavenly lords, some kind of formation is laid out, and that formation is overlaid on the domain of my colorless sword enclosure. It must be the star enclosure of one of the entering nirvanas. All of heaven and earth becomes engulfed by a burning tree. At the same time, a certain will emanates from the northern dipper 7 heavenly lords. 7 stars harnessing God. Kugugugugu. The 7 banners tremble violently, and starlight bursts forth from them, piercing into my body like spears. Quatching. But it's laughable. The starlight shatters with a single exertion of strength that is amplified by heaven, earth, heart, and wheel. Impermanent sword. Heavenly shatter impermanence. Tan Sui Wuchang. This is the impermanence sword, the ultimate will of crystal glass to treading sea. Naturally, crystal glass to treading sea 9 categories form can also be unfolded through the impermanence sword. Quarurum. For an instant, I enlarge my form and slam my fist into the overlaid reality. There is no loud sound. Instead, reality itself seems to shatter like a sheet of glass, and from the point where my fist strikes, 100 millions of streaks of slashes erupt outward. With that single strike, the groundless domain overlaid by the true persons is erased, and my sword enclosure is revealed once more. Impermanence sword. Sword C impermanence, Janhao Wuchang. Chuereric. The colorless glass sword, transformed into glass true fire, begins to dance in response to the impermanence sword. Below my feet, a mandala symbolizing sword C impermanence is drawn, and countless trajectories begin to stretch out from me as the center. Ping, 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 ping. The trajectories, like rays of light, are absorbed into the glass sword mountains scattered across the sword enclosure. At the same time, the glass sword mountains, imbued with the trajectories, begin to reflect them in all directions like mirrors reflecting light. Using the effect of retribution that is the inherent property of the impermanent sword, the trajectories are given and received between the sword mountains within my sword enclosure. Chuereric. The phenomenon of the trajectory reflecting off one sword mountain, illuminating another sword mountain, and then continuously scattering as it passes through yet another sword mountain, endlessly continues. In an instant, the entire sword enclosure fills with sword trajectories under my will. Flash. Heaven and earth become filled with sword trajectories. Amidst these trajectories, I leisurely observe the northern dipper 7 heavenly lords. Then, the giant gate heavenly lord exerts their power. Kurururu. The body of the giant gate heavenly lord seems to rotate, transforming into a black hole of the universe. Chwajajajak. All the trajectories I released are sucked into the giant gate heavenly lord and nullified. The giant gate heavenly lord rapidly devours my trajectories. I smile faintly. What I unleashed is not something as simple as a spell. Immediately after, the body of the giant gate heavenly lord explodes. Boom. Naturally, within these trajectories, the principle of Kunlun from the Severing Mountain swordsmanship is embedded. The trajectories carrying the principle of Kunlun etch the principle of purity inside the giant gate heavenly lord's body. Even though they have transformed into a black hole of the universe, they cannot overcome the purity carved within them and begin to collapse. Kururu. The body of the giant gate heavenly lord seems to boil, rapidly changing form as if trying to regain stability. At the same time, the breaking army heavenly lord and the martial melody heavenly lord rush at me from behind, pressing me down with attraction force and launching an attack using the true persons. However, I ignore all those attacks and charge straight at the giant gate heavenly lord, extending a single sword strike. With that, countless trajectories once again pour onto the giant gate heavenly lord. They attempt to avoid, nullify, or deflect the trajectories, but it's futile. I told you, this isn't some mere immortal art that casually fires beams from afar. Some people occasionally misunderstand. They think that when one reaches the realms of Chi commands sword and heart commands sword, one no longer needs to move their limbs, simply nodding their head to slaughter enemies from afar. But I can state with certainty, that is wrong. How could one become lazier as they rise higher in realms? A true heart command sword means that one's actions have become perfectly synchronized with the speed of their heart. Chuereric. If observed closely at each trajectory piercing the giant gate heavenly lord, my forms are faintly reflected within them. Indeed, this is not simply a form of firing trajectories. Just like in the case of Gangsphere clones, I separate my heart essence clones, and through those separated heart essence clones, I move at the speed of my heart to directly swing my sword at the enemy before my eyes. The form of entering heaven is me moving at the speed of light, completing a predetermined sequence of movements, and wielding my sword. The form of treading heaven is me separating my heart essence at speeds faster than light, and then having those separated heart essences carry the sword of my heart directly to strike. That's all it is. A martial artist who has reached a higher realm does not grow lazy. Instead, they move even faster and with even greater clarity. Therefore, as long as one simply considers my attack as some long-range immortal art, it is absolutely impossible to devour or deflect them. The life of a swordsman is ultimately close combat. Everything visible now is no different from me directly holding and swinging my sword. It's just, the number of heart essence clones is astronomically high. Keying. The trajectories of light, my clones, and the impermanence swords begin to draw countless trajectories. And in an instant, flash, light explodes. Within the cradle of light formed by entering heaven and treading heaven, the projection of the giant gate Heavenly Lord completely collapses. It is then, clang, one of the 7 stars harnessing God banners, held by the giant gate Heavenly Lord, flies straight towards my body. Simultaneously, the characters written on the 7 stars harnessing God banner shine. 7 stars harnessing God, Northern Dipper sealing immortal. Along with that, the form of the 7 stars harnessing God banner begins to glow within the starlight and transforms. It takes the form of a flag. Wisdom floods into my mind, and I recognize the name of this immortal treasure. Northern Dipper sealing immortal flag, Buri Dofeng Shanqi. Quack. At that moment, I feel as if a heavy shackle has been placed on my body, and the 7 stars harnessing God banner, now transformed into the Northern Dipper sealing immortal flag, embeds itself into me. This is a seal. I immediately understand what the giant gate Heavenly Lord has done. Did they set a condition for a prophecy? A condition-bound prophecy that if they were to die, this 7 stars harnessing God flag would reveal another form and fly straight into me. I had heard from Yeo why that such condition-bound prophecies hold far stronger attraction force, especially if the condition is tied to the life of the giant gate Heavenly Lord's projection, then even more so. But, regardless, I have finished off the giant gate Heavenly Lord. Quang. After utterly crushing the projection of the giant gate Heavenly Lord, I stretch my hand towards the approaching projection of the greedy wolf Heavenly Lord. Impermanent sword. Ghost face killing Heavenly Order. Gimang, Lu Tanshang. In an instant, the atmosphere of the entire colorless sword enclosure changes. Tattered giants formed from my corpses begin to gather and appear throughout the area, and the power of death fills the heavens. The body of the greedy wolf Heavenly Lord becomes an enormous blue supergiant star. Quararur. The massive blue supergiant star grows large enough to cover the entire colorless sword enclosure, pressing down upon me. Simultaneously, the greedy wolf Heavenly Lord's 7 stars harnessing God banner condenses starlight and presses down on me. Chweruruk. However, I begin scattering the power of death. Stop him. Stop the return. Of vast cold, the entering nirvana true persons revolve around me, constructing countless curses, immortal arts, spells, and formations. My body feels heavy, and misfortune clings to me through prophecies. But it's only for a moment. Wying. Heaven, earth, heart, and will rotate behind me, amplifying my power. I add the power of death to this amplified force and launch it towards the blue supergiant star. Chweruruk. Liquefied death energy envelopes the blue supergiant star. At the same time, the temperature of the blue supergiant star begins to drop. Blue, blue-white, white, golden, orange, sunset, red. The gradually cooling supergiant star is soon completely devoured by the aura of death and vanishes. Guawa. The interference of countless entering nirvana true persons weighs down on my body, and the prophecies of the Northern Dipper 7 Heavenly Lords press upon me. But they cannot withstand overwhelming power. Quarurum. Ignoring the curses, immortal arts, and everything else binding my feet to the fate of defeat, I charge directly into the collapsing center of the blue supergiant star, clad in the power of death. Quang. Covered in the impermanence sword of death energy, I pierce through the blue supergiant star and burst out to the exterior of the colorless sword enclosure. The projection of the greedy wolf Heavenly Lord, pierced through its center by me, perishes. At the same time, I feel the persistent will of the greedy wolf Heavenly Lord clinging to me. Northern Dipper sealing immortal flag. Quang. Their Northern Dipper sealing immortal flag flies toward me and embeds itself. The second flag resonates with the first already embedded in me, and I can feel some kind of connection forming between the two flags. Quadudaduk. The sealing immortal flags press down on me once more. Next is the martial melody Heavenly Lord. I descend towards the martial melody Heavenly Lord and slam their form into a nearby glass sword mountain. Quajingchang. Yet, they seem entirely unscathed. Their countless arms, having become their very being itself, unfold graceful palm and hand techniques with their hundreds of millions of arms, pressing down on me. Though grotesque in appearance, their form reveals a certain level of insight into martial arts, much like the sword spear Heavenly Lord. The touch of the martial melody Heavenly Lord feels, quite literally, like a song of martial arts. However, that is all. Impermanence sword. Twin flowers. Black-white impermanence. Huibad Wuchang. The power of death transforms into the power of curses and blessings. With it, two colossal giants appear above and below the martial melody Heavenly Lord. Black impermanence, white impermanence. The black and white giants draw power from the source river, the eastern heaven flower field, the interdimensional void, and the netherworld, crushing countless arms of the martial melody Heavenly Lord with death energy itself. The black and white giants, imbued with the authority of death borrowed from the four dimensions. The giants' forms begin to change. In an instant, the giants become Taiji. They close the distance towards the martial melody Heavenly Lord and crush their projection entirely, grinding it to dust. The projection of the martial melody Heavenly Lord is consumed and extinguished within the Taiji. Flash. At the same time, another Northern Dipper sealing immortal flag flies towards me and embeds itself. Clang. The connection with the two previous flags begins, and I feel my body being pressed down even further. Giant Gate, Greedy Wolf, Martial Melody. The projections of the three Heavenly Lords are swept away at once. In the next moment, Quang. The colossal forms of the Breaking Army Heavenly Lord and the Literary Melody Heavenly Lord crash down upon me. Strangely, the Breaking Army Heavenly Lord still remains in their transformation state, while the Literary Melody Heavenly Lord spins wildly in the form of a neutron star, chanting countless invocations. With every rotation, dozens of invocations burst out from within the neutron star. Though not immortal arts, the countless sealing invocations spread across heaven and earth like curses, binding me tightly. Impermanence Sword. Wind Painting Impermanence. Quarrurum. The sword trajectories whirl madly. Empowered by the strength of interstellar winds, the spiraling trajectories align with the rotation and frequency of the neutron star, finding a gap to pierce through its attraction force waves. In an instant, my impermanence sword shatters the Literary Melody Heavenly Lord in one strike. Quang. Dozens of entering nirvana true persons within its path burst apart, rendered completely incapacitated. Qua. Run away. Vast Cold. If Vast Cold has not returned, how can an entering nirvana wield the power of an upper immortal? What is this? Just what is this? The entering nirvana true persons flounder in panic. I quickly turn around to intercept the Breaking Army Heavenly Lord, but instead, what greets me is the Literary Melody Heavenly Lord's sealing immortal flag. Quang. For sealing immortal flags are pierced into my body. Quadragigic. The Preserving Wealth Heavenly Lord and the Integrity Chastity Heavenly Lord trace the shape of Taiji, Talji, as they transform into nebulas and begin to spin in the sky. Kururum. Between the two Heavenly Lords, who govern opposing concepts, a powerful repulsive force is generated, and heavenly lightning falls to the ground. Quang. The impact of the heavenly lightning shakes the entire colorless sword enclosure, and the manifestation of the star vein formation begins to waver. At the same time, from the point where the heavenly lightning struck, nebulae converge and form several stars that prophesize my fate. A vision of my sequential defeat is carried within them. Chiiria. However, I begin to release the mist of the canvas of myriad forms and connections from my entire body. With just this, you dare capture this immortal? Ha ha ha. Quang. Impermanence Sword. Torch of myriad forms and connections. The impermanence sword ignites, and the torch of myriad forms and connections lights up. At the same time, the candle dragon true blood burns to its extreme, drawing gigantic power from within me. If the power of the heaven tribe is attraction force, then the power of the earth tribe is explosion. Overwhelming explosion. B-E-G-O-N-E. Simultaneously, an explosion begins from within me. Though faint, the colorless sword enclosure is still the colorless sword enclosure. The entire colorless sword enclosure becomes infused with the jade of yin-yang and 5 elements. Great Mountain. Do-do-do-do-do. The entering nirvana true persons thrash about wildly. Wawaza. Run away. Vast Cold. The Vast Cold Heavenly Lord has returned. The projections of the Preserving Wealth Heavenly Lord and the Integrity Chastity Heavenly Lord merely murmur as they look at me with conflicted expressions. The sprout must be uprooted. Are we not enough? Such humiliation from 500,000 years ago must never happen again. In the next moment, Splitting Emperor. The power of the Great Mountain Splitting Emperor technique bursts forth, and everything within the colorless sword enclosure. Everything existing within a radius of 700 light-years is split into 7 parts in the plane of Qi and vanishes completely. Then, 2 sealing immortal flags fly toward me. Quang quang, clang. A total of 6 sealing immortal flags are embedded into my body, and 6 chains bind me. Qi. I glance around at the dim surroundings. All that remains is the Breaking Army Heavenly Lord. However, I cannot see victory for the Breaking Army Heavenly Lord. The scale of your power is so immense that even with the sealing in progress, It takes time for the seal to fully manifest, to the point where even we, the subordinates of time, cannot intervene. At that moment, I realize what they have been doing all this time. The subordinates of the heavenly venerable of time, the Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords, have been continuously casting a specific immortal art on me. It is none other than the immortal art of time acceleration. The reason they could create stars in an instant is likely related to this. While the sealing power of the Northern Dipper sealing immortal flags are remarkable, the sheer magnitude of the power I've amplified is so enormous that the sealing itself requires an immense amount of time. However, even in the accelerated time, I possess such overwhelming amplified power that I am not sealed. No, I will be sealed, but it seems it will take time to reach that point. How regrettable. If only we had a little more time, this might have been a fight worth attempting. The breaking army Heavenly Lord finishes speaking, gripping their 7 stars, harnessing God banner with gleaming eyes. In the name of the Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords, I prophesize. I extend a single palm. My palm becomes a mass of power. Carrying the power of the impermanent sword, it advances, growing so vast it seems as though it could swallow the entirety of heaven and earth. The prophecy the breaking army Heavenly Lord was about to utter shatters completely, and my palm engulfs them, even collapsing a corner of the universe. It is a single palm akin to a single strike from the sword spear Heavenly Lord or an attack from Bloodine with all his might. We will remember you. With those final words, the projection of the breaking army Heavenly Lord crumbles beneath my strike. After the breaking army Heavenly Lord vanishes, the prophecy of the Northern Dipper sealing immortal flag activated with their demise as a condition strikes me, and the 7 immortal treasures of the Northern Dipper, 7 heavenly lords pierce into my body, crushing me. Kadoo-doo-doo-duck. A pressure beyond imagination tries to seal my authority. However, this power, boiling from heaven, earth, heart, and wheel, surpassing even volcanic eruptions and like the solar winds, is not so easily sealed. If given enough time, I would eventually be sealed. But I see no need for that, and instead begin shattering the seal with the authority I still possess. Quaching. With a single exertion of strength, a terrifying wave spreads across the entire universe. With it, the countless remaining entering nirvana true persons flee completely. They must have concluded that there is no longer any chance of victory against me. I ignore them and exert even more strength into my body. It's then. Flinch. I sense someone approaching me, leaping across vast light years of distance. A familiar presence. A familiar foreboding. A familiar malice. It is Ja-eum, dressed in a purple robe, and Bloodine, dressed in a dark red robe. Bloodine. I stare at him and speak with a complicated expression. For aiding me, I offer my gratitude. But Bloodine opens his mouth. From now on, his voice interrupts mine, and his eyes begin vomiting sinister light. Prove yourself before me. Kugagugagu. Ja-eum, with a strangely happy expression, is absorbed into Bloodine. Bloodine then begins to gradually reveal his main body, spreading thick murderous intent towards me. Are you truly the workings of the Imperial Venerable? If so, you will survive. If not, you will face demise by my hands, your soul extracted and refined into an immortal treasure. Kugagugagugu. I swallow hard as I see this sight. I had thought the Northern Dipper's 7 heavenly lords were the final and greatest obstacle left before me. I was wrong. The final trial of the 999th cycle is none other than Bloodine, who now demands proof from me. Prove that you are worthy of bearing the wheel.